Can you hear me?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the City of Paterson Planning Board meeting of Monday, April 26, 2021, 6:30 p.m. via webinar session. This is a special meeting this evening. I am Margarita Vega, your secretary this evening. Mr. Aquaviva, will you take over the meeting, sir? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Commissioners, it appears that our chairperson is not going to be here until later, so we need a motion to appoint a chairperson at this time. Everybody's muted. I can't hear anyone.
Please unmute. Commissioner, chairperson.
Good evening.
I make a motion to appoint chairperson.
Okay, and who are you making the motion to appoint?
Lauren Brooks?
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Madam Secretary, can we have a roll call? Madam Secretary, can you hear me?
Commissioner Ahmed, your vote for chairperson this evening?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Brooks?
Yes, but
Yes. Commissioner Savalos?
Yes.
Commissioner Santana?
Yes.
Commissioner Eugene?
Yes.
Commissioner Figueroa?
Yes.
Councilman Kalik? Commissioner Forestieri? That's it, unanimously welcome. Chairwoman Brooks, you may proceed with this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
well, you told me today that I wasn't cheering. I didn't know that I was chairing this meeting, so I don't have the paperwork. That
I will assist you, absolutely. Yes, I will. I will help you.
You can read whatever because you told me how.
Absolutely. Give me one moment, please. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, commissioners and staff, and welcome to the Paterson Planning Board meeting of April 26, 2021. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Chairwoman, Commissioners, Planning Board staff, ladies and gentlemen, as Chairwoman Brooks of the City of Paterson Planning Board calls this meeting to order of April 26, 2021, special meeting at 6:30 p.m. to order. She hereby states that all the provisions of the State of New Jersey public meeting law have been fully satisfied and completely met, that the notice of the provisions required have been properly posted in the Planning Board office and with the City of Paterson clerk, that the public notice and advertisements have been published in the Herald News. One moment. On Thursday, April 15, 2021, in accordance with the law, and that the copies of such notice and public advertisements are on file in the planning board office, as is also the agenda listing the applications to be taken up by the planning board at this meeting. The procedure tonight will be in accordance with the rules, regulations, and bylaws as herefore to determined by the planning board at its offices in the municipal complex in the city of Paterson. Chairwoman Brooks, may I call the roll, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioners. Commissioner Fisher is absent. Commissioner Ahmed.
Present.
Commissioner Savalos.
Present.
Commissioner Cleaves is absent. Commissioner Santana. Thank you. Commissioner Issa is absent. Commissioner Udine.
I'm here, Madam Secretary.
Thank you. Commissioner Figueroa. Commissioner Figueroa. Councilman Kalik. Commissioner Forestieri.
Here.
Commissioner Figueroa. Councilman Kalik.
I'm here, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Councilman. Commissioner Figueroa. I need your attendance. Commissioner Northrup is absent. Chairwoman Brooks.
Here.
One more time, Commissioner Figueroa. At this point, I will consider her absent until told otherwise. Thank you very much. You may proceed, Chairperson Brooks. Thank you.
All right, I don't suppose it matters which application we hear tonight. So
Yes, ma'am. The first application would be 207 Governor Street.
Okay, then, Mr. Deutsch, you want to do your report first?
I would be willing to read the agenda into the record, or would you like to do so, Chairwoman?
I don't have it, that's what I'm saying.
All right, I will read it into the record. Notice pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act addressing effects of coronavirus measures on the next public meeting, consistent with the coronavirus-related restrictions of Executive Order Number 107 given on Saturday, March 21st, 2020 by Governor Philip D. Murphy. The Planning Board of the City of Paterson will not conduct in-person participation of the public at all future meetings until further notice. However, public participation will be available by means of communication equipment pursuant to NJSA 10-4-8, commencing on April 15th, 2020. Though there may potentially be a practical need for a limited number of administrative, technical, or other city personnel to be present in or near the council chambers, 3rd floor, City Hall, 155 Market Street in Paterson, New Jersey, in-person participation of the public is prohibited. Nevertheless, for reasons of compliance with the said Executive Order Number 107, public participation will be available by calling 1-973-321-1579, meeting ID number 711-680-001. Planning Board special meeting of Monday, April 26, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. on the date and time that the meeting is scheduled to commence. The public may also participate in the meeting by accessing the website of the City of Paterson, www.patersonnj.gov. The first application this evening is JCM Investors 1012 LLC, 207 Governor Street, Block 3211, Lot 33. This application is on a vacant lot. The applicant proposes to construct a new 3-story residential building with a total of 6 units. The first floor proposes a refuse recycling room, a utility room, 2 one-bedroom units, and a staircase. 2 one-bedroom units are also proposed on both the second and third floors. The parcel has lot area of 3,125 square feet. This proposal is within the RA-2 zone of the 4th Ward redevelopment plan. Variances are requested for the following. The lot area as 5,000 square feet is required and 3,125 square feet is existing. Lot width as a minimum of lot width of 50 feet is required and a lot width of 25 feet is existing. 1 side yard setback as a minimum of 5 feet is required and 0 feet is proposed. Rear yard setback as a minimum of 20 feet is required and 17 feet is proposed. Lot building coverage as a maximum lot building coverage of 60% is permitted and 65% is proposed, and open space as 900 square feet of open space is required and 579 square feet of open space is proposed. This requires site plan approval and bulk variances. Is the applicant present?
President ready, Alan Maricon on behalf of the applicant.
Thank you. Chairperson?
Okay, all right, so now, Mr. Deutsch, would you like to do your special report?
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Property taxes and sewer charges are current. Persons having a 10% or greater ownership interest in JCM Investors 1012 LLC is Matthew Florio, providing an address of 449 East 18th Street, Paterson, New Jersey. As indicated on the property survey prepared by James Pica, T2 Land Surveying, and dated November 6, 2020, lot 3211, lot 33, that's frontage of 25 feet on Governor Street. A rear lot line that also measures 25 feet, and eastern and western side lot lines that measure 125 feet each. Lot 33 has an area of 3,125 square feet, or 0.07 acres. Also is vacant. There are existing 3-story residential dwellings located both west and east of the subject parcel, approximately 3 feet from the western side property line and 7 feet from the eastern side property line. The site is located on the northern side of Governor Street, between Harold Street to the west and Roosevelt Street to the east. The site is vacant and its lowest elevation is near Governor Street and gradually rises 7 feet to the rear parcel. Governor Street is a one-way street in a westerly direction. Most likely a structure that burned down previously occupied places. The site details are shown for the context of food detail. Additionally, plan indicates site
You're cutting off, Michael, I can't hear you.
Excuse me, but there is someone who is not muted. I hear television in the background. If you are not on, please mute yourself and we can begin, because I don't hear him either. With all due respect, will anyone please check their mics? Thank you.
Okay. Evans Architects has prepared a 4-page architectural submittal revised to February 22nd, 2021. Drawing S1 is the site plan. Details are shown for the concrete sidewalk detail. Additionally, the plan indicates site notes, the 200-foot radius map, the zoning ordinance data, and the site plan. The proposed site plan indicates that the proposed building is to cover 65% of the lot, and has an approximate dimension of 21 feet in width and 104 feet in length. The building is proposed to be 3 feet from the Governor Street front property line, 4 feet from the western side property line, placed on the eastern side property line, and 17 feet from the rear property line. Site plan also indicates shrubbery and landscaping to be placed along the front of the building, and the rear of the property is to be landscaped. A note on the plan indicates that the entire site and site perimeter is to be equipped with video security throughout public areas and site lighting along the traveled public way.
Mr. Deutsch, if we can interrupt for 1 second. Commissioner Figueroa, I think I saw you just log in. Did you just log in? Can you hear me?
I had computer issues and I was logged in from the beginning, but then my computer shut down, but I'm on.
Okay, I just want the record to reflect that Commissioner Figueroa has joined the meeting and she's been present. Okay, Mr. Deutsch, I'm sorry, continue.
Okay, the note of the plan indicates that the entire site perimeter is to be equipped with video security throughout public areas and site lighting along the traveled public way and parking area. Surveillance cameras are to connect to the City of Paterson Police Department system. Drawing S2 is the site plan details. The plan indicates site notes, the seepage pit section, the concrete vertical curb, and roadway pavement widening. Roof-mounted condenser detail, the roof leader, overflow detail, sanitary sewer connection detail, and the water connection detail. Drawing SK1 indicates the first floor plan and the second and third floor plans. The building has a proposed height of 35 feet. The first floor indicates that access into the building is through a recessed access door located on the western side of the building's midpoint. The recessed doors lead to a lobby area with stairs to the upper floors, an enclosed sprinkler room, a package area, and to the two first floor one-bedroom units that are located either at the front or rear of the building. The front unit indicates a 737 square foot one-bedroom unit that includes a full bathroom, a laundry closet, a mechanical closet, a kitchen, and a living room. The rear unit is 603 square foot one-bedroom unit that includes a full bathroom, a laundry closet, a mechanical closet, a kitchen, and a living room. There's also a refuse recycling room located to the left of the access door. When open, the doors will be 6 inches from the western side property line. The floor plans for the second and third floors are identical. The floors have 2 units each. Units 201 and 301 are 761 square foot, one-bedroom units that include a full bathroom, a laundry closet, a mechanical closet, a kitchen, and a living room. Units 202 and 302 are 737 square foot, one-bedroom units that include a full bathroom, a laundry closet, a mechanical closet, a kitchen, and a living room. Drawing SK2 of the building elevations. The front elevation view from Governor Street indicates a 35-foot in height, 3-story building. The front elevation indicates a mostly stucco facade with windows in all 3 levels. The rear elevation view of the building indicates vinyl siding on all 3 floors with double windows on all 3 levels. The left side elevation indicates the access door into the building and the recycling room, trash room, double doors. The building has a stucco facade with some brick and windows on all 3 floors. This is a flat roof building. The intent of the RA-2 residential district of the 4th Ward redevelopment plan is to permit a more intensive residential use of land with various types of dwellings. The surrounding existing dwellings consist of older, rehabilitated, older, and newer multifamily dwellings of mainly 3 stories in height and a few newer 4-story residential apartment buildings. Within the RA-2 district of the 4th Ward redevelopment plan, there are other examples of both new and recently approved multiple unit residential buildings that have replaced older structures that have either been vacant and abandoned or on long vacant lots. Variances are requested for the following. Lot area is 5,000 square feet is required and 3,125 square feet is existing. Lot width as a minimum lot width of 50 feet is required and lot width of 25 feet is existing. Both side yard setbacks as a minimum of 5 feet is required and 4 feet is provided on the western side and 0 feet is provided on the eastern side. Rear yard setback as a minimum of 20 feet is required and 17 feet is proposed. Lot building coverage as a maximum lot building coverage of 60% is permitted and 62% is proposed, and open space of 900 square feet of open space is required, and 575 square feet of open space is proposed. As this is a redevelopment area, the planning board must determine whether the granting of the requested variances to allow the number of dwelling units proposed by the applicant is appropriate for the lot and the immediate surrounding area. Off-street parking is not required on lots with a width of 25 feet or less. It will be the responsibility of the applicant and or the preparer of the plan to obtain a letter from the city engineer indicating the plans have been satisfactorily reviewed prior to the plans being released to the construction official. Surrounding land uses. This proposal is in the Wrigley Park section of the city within the 4th Ward redevelopment plan. The area is zoned residential with neighborhood commercial areas located at some corner intersections. Concluding remarks. The applicant estimates the cost of this proposal at approximately $500,000. The applicant should incorporate the design elements contained within the 4th Ward redevelopment plan on the site and within the building. At 190 Governor Street, a 5-story multi-residential building with parking on the ground floor has been completed. At the corner of Governor Street and Rosa Parks Boulevard, a 3-story multi-residential building has also been completed. At 222 Governor Street, a multi-unit 3-story structure has been completed, and at 210 Governor Street, across the street from this proposal, a 4-story multi-residential building with parking on the ground floor has also been completed. That is your staff review for this proposal, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you, Mr. Deutsch. Mr. Maricondo, you want to proceed with your witnesses?
Yes, thank you very much. Again, for the record, Alan Maricondo, thank you for hearing us on a special meeting basis again. We are presenting an application this evening again within the 4th Ward redevelopment plan. It's a parcel that's under 5,000 square feet, but actually larger than some of the other applications that you've seen before this board for similar smaller scale projects in the 5 to 6 unit range. And this is a development that proposes 1-bedroom units. At this time, we'll be calling Mr. Evans, and we'll be followed by Mr. Reed and Mr. Latham. So at this time, Mr. Evans.
Okay. You want to call?
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Say your full name for the record.
Matthew Evans, architect, 470 Chamberlain Avenue, Paterson, New Jersey.
Madam Chair, do we accept Mr. Evans as a
I accept him as an expert. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Evans, you've heard Mr. Deutsch's report. You prepared to get a site plan before the board this evening?
Yes.
Could you give us an overview of what the site contains now and what we're proposing?
Yeah, okay, so I could share my screen here. Give me a second. So we have, you can see that?
The site plan is visible? Yes? Okay.
All right, good. So basically what we have a 4-sheet submission, S1, S2, SK1, SK2, dated 2/22/21. What we're proposing, it's a vacant lot, and we're proposing to a new construction, which would be a 6-unit, 1-bedroom each. That would be basically to the easterly side of the lot and have access along the westerly side. We have, so in the site plan, existing conditions, like details, and then we go to the floor plans. We'll zoom in and we'll see the first floor. We have unit 102 is a 1-bedroom unit, very large. It's 737 square feet, handicap accessible, and it is has its own mechanicals for that unit, its own washer dryer, and has a large bedroom in the front. It's 12 by 17. Then we have in the exterior access for the tenants, we have a refuse and recycling, which is basically outside, but has interior. It's built onto the interior of the building. We have a sprinkler utility room. We have a package area in the lobby. And then in the rear, we have unit 101. That's 603 square feet. Also another large unit with a large bedroom in the back.
600 being the minimum size?
Yes.
Okay.
And then, we go to the second, we have a main, entry and stair, which accesses all 3 floors. There's no basement, so it's all, everything's above grade. And we have, the rear unit is similar, a little bigger than, the first floor unit because we don't have the sprinkler utility refuse area. So we go back to about 761 square feet. The front unit is 737 square feet, similar to the upper floor. So the second and third would be, the same. And they're all pretty much similar in the same, context of what we have. Then we have the front elevation. We have a mix of materials. We have large, windows. We have a 2-tone stucco finish and some decorative brick along the front. We have a canopy with the, building number showing the elevations. And then as you see the left side elevation, we have access to the apartments, refuse area. We have, as I mentioned before, the large windows. Large windows are predominantly on the second and third floor because of the, street level apartment. We wanted to give a little more privacy. So, the rear elevation we showed the vinyl siding, and the right side would be, also vinyl siding. Then we show the HVAC units, which should be tucked behind the parapet on the exterior. So, that would be the, architecturals, what we're proposing. Similar to other, one I think we proposed, and was approved by the board, a week or 2 ago.
And, all these units are self-contained with laundry facilities?
Yes.
Okay. And we do have a substantial amount of open space because of the size of the lot?
Yeah, so if we look at the, site plan, we can look at the back. We have 17 feet by 25 feet, in the back, so we almost have about roughly 600 square feet of a recreational, outdoor, passive, and active space. And then we have the ADA compliant walkway. We're also proposing landscaping in the front, 3-foot setback on the building. Then we've used that to buffer, on the sidewalk with, landscaping and a proposed street tree, which would be a decorative cherry, tree that would blossom in the spring, and it would not, it would just, wouldn't get too big, so it'd be more decorative.
Okay. And our building, stories is only 30 stories, is that right?
Yeah,
Within the requirements, and also our building height is well within the requirements?
yeah.
Okay. I think I'll conclude Mr. Evans' testimony, subject to any questions the board may have. So, Mr. Williams will be testifying for planning.
Okay, so you have Mr. Reed and Mr. Williams as, correct? Well, you want to take Mr. Reed before I go to the public? No, we can go to the person. Or you open it to the public.
Okay, Mr. Reed is up.
You swear affirm testimony about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
State your full name for the record.
Andy Reed, REID, Director of Development for Adjacent Investors.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. You heard Mr. Evans' testimony this evening?
Yes.
And you are in full agreement with that testimony?
Yes.
And you also had the benefit of hearing Mr. Deutsch's report and his staff report?
Yes.
Again, this is a design that is similar to others that we have proposed to the board successfully. Could you tell us your thoughts about the 1-bedroom units and how this will function?
Yeah, well, we have a demand for 1-bedrooms. Obviously, there's no parking there, and Mr. Williams will talk about that. But in our experience, a lot of times our 1-bedrooms, most of the tenants are just starting out or they're elderly, so they use either public transportation or car share services and stuff like that.
Okay, well, just, I know we've been through this on other applications, but your security and lighting standards that you apply to these buildings, just describe it quickly again.
The security, the camera, the maintenance, all of our properties, and we have substantial properties in that area, so just feed off each other and stuff like that. So we have a lot of security in that area. We keep the almost that whole entire block all cleaned up, and, you know, actually the block prior to that and that block. We keep the street all clean, you know, on a daily basis.
Right, and security is basically 24/7?
Yes,
Yeah. And Mr. Deutsch alluded to some of the other buildings we developed on Governor, that would be correct?
yes, that's what I was saying. We have a few more, properties in that area, so,
Right,
our security is heavily concentrated in that area, as well as our maintenance.
okay, very good. That's all I have, Mr. Reed, Madam Chair, thank you.
All right, Madam Secretary, I don't have the public information to give to them, so can you read it into? Madam Secretary, are you there? I see the chairperson is in now. Would you like to take this meeting over?
Excuse me, I'm listening to you, I'm waiting for you to finish speaking.
I've been trying to reach you on the phone up. I don't have the information.
Well, I will do so,
Public.
thank you. Absolutely, ma'am. Anyone of the public or anyone who would like to speak on this application, any testimony given, it call 973-321-1579, meeting ID number 711-680-001. You have 2 minutes for a call, and I will get back to everyone in 1 moment.
Madam Secretary,
Yes,
it's Jan Northrup. Just let the record reflect that I've joined the meeting.
thank you for joining the meeting.
Okay.
One moment.
I think at this point, Commissioner Northrop, you can take over the chair. So, okay, it's fine, with me. Please take it over.
Are you sure? You don't want to continue?
I'm positive. I don't have any information. They told me that they didn't tell me this in advance, so.
Okay, I'll continue then, thank you.
Very good.
I need the attorney, 1 moment, please.
Okay.
And with my kids, I was going to the store to buy something, and my lease was down here.
Can anybody hear me? Because everybody is frozen up on my screen.
We can hear you.
Yeah, you're fine.
Mr. Apaviva, excuse me, Mr. Apaviva, can you please call me on your cell, please?
Madam Chair, I believe there is an objector on the phone, John Algier.
Yes, and I just wanted to make sure I can take over the meeting at this point.
Yes, you can. You can take over the meeting, but you cannot vote.
I can't vote. Okay. All right. So, at this point, I believe, there's a John Algier on the phone. Sir, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, please state your name and address, okay, for the record.
Yep, Reverend John Algiera, 409 East 25th Street, Paterson, New Jersey.
Okay, thank you very much. And this question would be for either the architect or Mr. Anderson. Your question, please?
Okay, I have a couple of questions, and I'm not sure if this is for Mr. Evans or Mr. Reed, but in the current Paterson tax records, this lot is 25 by 100 feet. So I'm curious how and when it became 125 feet.
Well, I don't know who you want to answer that question, but we have a sealed survey from a licensed surveyor, so, we come off of his survey.
I can state for the record, also that the survey and the, site plan are in accordance with the actual dimensions of the property. There are times when the Paterson Tax Office has discrepancies with square footage or dimensions on some of the older parcels in the city. But it's undisputed, I believe, in my estimation, that this is, the size of the lot is as depicted on our plan and survey.
Okay, next question, sir?
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Reed, the building going to buildings?
Excuse me?
Mr. Reed, is the building going up behind this proposed building? The new, it looks like a 20-unit building. Is that one of your buildings?
It's possible, I'm not exactly sure which building it is, but it's possible.
Okay. All right. Then, Mr. Evans, on the rear yard, it's 25 by 17 feet, which is 425 feet. So I'm just wondering where we get 600 feet of recreation space.
Our site plan depicts 575 or 579? 579.
Includes the side yard and rear yard open space.
Well, the side yard is the alley, right? The 5 feet?
Yeah.
The side, okay, so that's hardly, it seems very unfair to call that recreation space. So basically there's 425 feet in the back. I get that. I'm curious, Mr. Evans, if this building has the general design standards from the Fourth Ward redevelopment plan of the streetscape, which looks at a 5-foot sidewalk with a 3-foot planting strip. Does it have that?
Yeah.
It does, okay. And does it have, on page 53, it talks about, exterior little window sills and a 1-foot cornice for the flat roof. Does it have that?
Well, we have different architectural details that we put in, as I mentioned in my testimony, we have large windows. We have different materials, mix of materials of brick, stucco, two-tone color, cornice, and then we have an awning over canopy design, a modern canopy design along the entranceway.
Okay. I know Mr. Deutsch said the intent of the R2 is medium density, but I would propose that building a building 100 feet long is going way above medium density, 3 feet high. And I don't know, Madam Chairperson, if you want me to give my final comments now or save those till later.
No, please save them for later, the comments.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. It's my understanding, there's no other callers. I received a text message, so with that being said, I'm gonna open up the questions to the board. Commissioners? Commissioners, any questions?
I have questions, Mr. Reed.
Yes, yes,
Mr. Reed.
Commissioner.
Mr. Reed. Is it, I understand that you can build a 6-family on a 25 by 100 lot based on the redevelopment plan. However, wouldn't it be more feasible? I mean, I know that we've passed it, we've approved it in the past, but couldn't you do 4-family? The redevelopment plan really says, it starts off saying 3 to 4, and up, but it starts off saying 3 to 4. And it just seems like this is an overdevelopment of land. And we've been, this planning board has been approving it, not to say that it's right. I think that it's already overdeveloped. We should at least, you've done 6 families on that, on Governor Street, Fair Street, 25 by 100. Why can't you start doing like 4 families with maybe, I'm not even saying a parking space, but maybe two bedrooms or so. I just don't understand why it has to be so many units on such a small piece of a property, 25 by 100. I don't understand. Why is that necessary?
Well, I'm not a planner, so that might be a better question for the planner. But if I look at it, if I did 4 2-bedroom apartments, that's 8 bedrooms in relation to 6 bedrooms. So I think that would be even more dense. But again, I'm not a planner, so I don't want to, step on his toes. Maybe he can answer that question better after he gives his testimony.
I'm not saying. Well, maybe I phrased that wrong. I'm not saying 2 bedrooms, 4. I said it wrong. I'm saying 4 apartments, 1 bedroom. That's what I meant to say. I'm not adding to the number of bedrooms because I think that it's already overdeveloped. And even though we've approved it in the past, it just needs, at some point, it needs to stop.
Well, I mean, honestly, I don't think the area, I don't think the 4th Ward is overdeveloped, by a long shot. There's demands for, our units. These 5 to 6 units on these 25 lots, they work. There is a substantial amount of open space and, recreation area in the rear of the, building, and it will be landscaped. So I just think to the contrary about that, but, I would like to defer to our planner for that type of information and testimony, because I'm by no means a professional planner.
Okay, my next question, I'm not finished. My next, this is what I want you to ask Mr. Florio. And all of the developments that I've gone to in other cities, when developers have come in and developed on a vast basis such as this, they always give something to the community. They either build a park, they either build a school, they either...
Commissioner Brooks, I apologize, I have to interrupt you. Your questions have to be directed to the witnesses.
I'm asking...
If I can finish, please. Your questions have to be directed to the witnesses who are giving testimony. You cannot ask Mr. Reed to take a question back to Mr. Florio or anyone else for that matter who is not testifying this evening. So anything that
represents Mr. Florio. How can I ask?
Because he's the director of development of JCM, which is the applicant. If Mr. Florio were here, by all means, you can ask whatever you want to ask of him. But your questions to Mr. Reed to be redirected to someone who is not here tonight would not be admissible. So any questions you have for Mr. Reed and all the other witnesses here, feel free to ask them. But
Let me
I'm asking
rephrase
to ask you questions to someone who is not here.
Let me rephrase it.
Commissioner Brooks, Commissioner
Who
Brooks.
is that?
This is, Andy Reid.
Okay.
Commissioner Brooks, let me say this here. I agree with the board attorney, and I don't want to step on his toes either. But I just want to just say this here, I guess I'm on the record. Mr. Florio and his family and his wife Marie, they have a heart of gold for the Fourth Ward, the city of Paterson, the young people in Paterson, the elderly in Paterson, those who come upon some unfortunate circumstances or tragedy. He is first and foremost, and most times he does it quietly. Mr. Florio has talked to several people in the city about recreational centers, developments for the communities, playgrounds. They come to him. It's not as simple as that. Some of the properties properties that belong to the city of Paterson.
Mr. Reid, I have to interrupt you just like I interrupted Commissioner Brooks. What you're giving is hearsay testimony. You're being asked questions from someone else and you're responding. Let me just finish. Let me finish. You are giving an answer from second-hand knowledge. It's hearsay testimony. The question is,
I'm just saying, I just wanted to get that out there because I'm at the table with Mr. Florio when he kills me.
Mr. Reid.
Okay, stop 1 moment.
Mr. Reid, you do not have to answer the question, okay? My advice to the board and my suggestion, strong suggestion to Commissioner Brooks is to direct your questions to Mr. Reid or other witnesses that are here. Your questions to Mr. Reid about what someone else is saying to someone else is not only hearsay, it's what we call double hearsay. So
I'm not saying something to.
None of it is admissible, and the board should not consider any of it.
Admissible to who? Admissible to you?
Everyone's talking over each other.
No.
Did you get this?
Admissible to the board. My job here as the attorney is to give counsel to the board. And what I'm saying to you is that you are asking questions from someone about the knowledge of another individual. That is hearsay. The board cannot accept it. And quite frankly, if the board considered it, and by some reason denied this application, it would set this up for a very, very easy appeal at the Superior Court. So,
Mr. Aquavita, I'm very surprised because you seem more like the attorney for the applicant rather than the board.
No, I'm the attorney.
Supposed to represent the board.
I'm trying to advise the board how to proceed. You cannot, I don't care who the applicant is. If you are going to ask questions of someone who's not here through a witness who is testifying, it's inappropriate. It's not admissible. I don't care if it's JCM or John Smith down the street. You cannot ask questions of someone who is not here. And you're asking Mr. Reid to answer a question about someone else or what someone else might have said.
And I wasn't asking, you never let me finish what I was saying to him, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. I asked Mr. Reid if he thought that, I was going to ask him if he thought that Mr. Florio would consider. Now, how is that?
You can't ask that question.
How is that serious?
You know, Mr. Florio is not here. Mr. Florio is not here. Okay, if Mr. Reid believes that he can
Cannot
answer that
think for
question.
Mr. Florio, I'm sorry, Mr. Reid cannot think for Mr. Florio. He's not here to defend what you might be going to Mr. Reid.
Florio.
But he works for Mr. Florio, but he can't answer how Mr. Florio thinks, and that is what it comes down
Madam
to.
Chair, I think I could clear this up.
Okay, please.
Mr. Reid, if you can answer that question with any authority, then by all means answer it. But you cannot answer it based upon what Mr. Florio's answer would be.
Okay, I just like to say this, Madam Chairwoman, I would just like to say this here, that I am in meetings with people from the city and with Mr. Florio on 2 proposed developments, one for a playground for the kids and one for a recreational center.
That answers somewhat my question. Thank you, Mr. Reid.
Thank you.
All right. Any other, yes, Commissioner Ahmed, please.
Mr. Riggs,
Yes, sir.
this got to stop.
Excuse me?
This got to stop because there are other words in other places in Paterson that 25 by 100 people cannot build a 2, 3 family or 4 family, and now that just planning board of City of Paterson give you the opportunity to take the opportunity to build, and you guys are taking just taking the advantage. There are just.
Commissioner, I present that. First of all, we got applications that redevelopment.
Wait, excuse me, wait, Mr. Reed, let Commissioner Ahmed continue. Thank you.
Just because this is you guys taking advantage 2 ways. Just because it is under 25 by 100, now there is no parking requirements. So now, if somebody wants to make a 2-family house, there are 3 or 4 parking spots there. Just because this is under 25 feet, now it's no parking requirement. So I think this got to stop, and it is getting overcrowded, and Mr. Florio and you are all taking the advantage of the redevelopment. I understand that Mr. Florio is helping us and helping the city. We appreciate it, but we need to think about our city. Every big building you are proposing, they have the commercial space, and which making our cities more unsafe. You telling me the camera will stop the crimes and all the drug dealing and stuff? No. Those corner stores are bringing the drugs, gangs, and all these people they hang out in every corner stores is bringing the more drugs, more guns for the city, and it's not stopping. Your cameras it's not helping us. So please, don't take the advantage. 25 by 100, you're making six apartment buildings. No parking space. It's unbelievable.
Madam Chair, if I may respond on behalf of the applicant.
Commissioner, we don't write this.
See, let me respond to this, okay?
Wait, Commissioner, wait. One moment. Okay, Commissioner Ahmed is finished. Mr. Reed, make your comment, and then I'm gonna ask, I heard Mr. Maricon to say something, please, go ahead.
I'd like to interject that.
Make it brief, Mr. Reed.
Before Mr. Reed responds, let me interject on behalf of the applicant. Okay? First of all, this is not a 2,500 square foot lot. We are not doing anything that is not permitted within this particular redevelopment zone, and there are various and numerous parts of the city within various redevelopment zones designated by the council, the elected governing body of this city, where these are permitted uses. There's no magic or trickery involved in these applications whatsoever. This was a decision determined and validated by the governing body of this city.
Wait, Commissioner Ahmed, I'm sorry, wait 1 second. Only one person can talk at a time because the recorder cannot be, you'll have a minute and just give me a minute. But only one person can talk at a time because the recorder cannot record the conversation. So God forbid this has to go to court, we have to have it right.
Yes.
Okay, please, okay, Mr. Maricon, continue.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Again, we are not seeking any special treatment or deferential treatment. This is a very standard permitted application in terms of use in this zone. And the plan is for 1-bedroom, low-density apartments. They are conforming square footage sizes for the apartments. We're only here for a minimal number of variances. Now, some sort of general comment about this has to stop, I think, troubled me a little bit because it doesn't focus on this specific application. And I believe that everything that's heard tonight, I think board council would agree, must be geared towards the merits of this particular application. That's what I wanted the board to.
Okay, fine. Okay, wait, excuse me, Commissioner Ahmed, I believe Mr. Reed wanted to make a comment, but please make it brief, and then I want to go to Commissioner Ahmed.
Yes, Commissioner, what I want, Madam Chairman, thank you. Only thing I just want to add to it is, in this area here, in the fourth ward, our development has wiped out a lot of blight and crime and criminal activity, especially on our properties, and on vacant properties that was in this area that we acquired, demolished, and redeveloped. And second of all, on our developments where we have a commercial element, there's no like bodega or liquor store where people are hanging out. There's people that's hanging around and properties that have been there existing, and maybe some are non-conforming use, maybe some have liquor stores or bodega where a lot of the drug guys hang out with them. But as we slowly develop in those areas and everything, a lot of that stuff is getting pushed away and everything, and the area has dramatically changed. Maybe we need to, if we all visit that area more often, we'll see that there's been dramatic change. So there's a way to go, but our development has wiped out a lot of blight and crime in the fourth ward, especially in that immediate area between Harrison Street and Hamilton Ave, going from Rosa Parks down to Auburn Street. Thank you.
And there was no commercial, Madam Chair, no commercial use is proposed. That's not the subject of this application. Period.
I was just about to say that, okay, Mr. Mariconda, I want to keep it only about this particular application. That's all we're discussing this evening, right now, is this particular application. Commissioner Ahmed?
Yes, Mr. Mariconda. So if it's required 50 feet, then bring us a 50 feet by 100 feet. So there is no problem. If you want us to consider something, then bring something close to it.
We are presenting the testimony tonight that asks the board to consider a limited number of variances. Again, it's not 2,500 square feet, and the planning testimony covers those variances.
But it says 25 by 100?
This lot is not 25 by 100.
So what's the lot size, sir?
Already been testified to, Mr. Evans. You want to put it on the record again? Yes.
And we have a survey. I mean, I don't think we should ask a witness what size of lot, basically saying that he don't agree with our survey. We provide a survey for our project.
Please, one more time, state it for the record and then I'm gonna move on. State it one more time.
Madam Chair, let me clear this
Well,
up.
right now, Mr. Deutsch confirmed. There's no doubt about it.
Mr. Deutsch, what is the size of this lot?
The survey indicates it's 25 feet in width by 125 feet in length.
So what is it?
Okay, 25 times 125 equals 3,125 square feet.
As per your report.
So what is 25? It's supposed to be 50.
Right.
He's talking about lot width, but that's a different question.
And that's what I'm talking about, sir. Thank you.
Lot size of 3125.
Okay. Any other commissioners have any questions?
Madam Secretary, this is Councilman Patel.
Yeah,
This is Councilman Patel.
I have a question.
No, wait, excuse me, wait.
I'm sorry.
Excuse me, I hear somebody, was it Councilman Khalid, I heard somebody say something.
You heard me, I don't know what you're talking, yeah, he said after me.
No, I heard someone else, I heard someone else before you, excuse me, I heard someone else before you. So whether it's before you or after you, we'll get to you. I have a question, does somebody else reach out to me to talk? Okay, now nobody wants to
Madam
talk.
Chair, can I just make a suggestion?
Yes.
With everybody talking over everyone,
That's right,
the court reporter can't correctly transcribe this hearing.
that's right.
Madam Chair, my suggestion is anybody who's speaking, please indicate they are finished saying what they have to say, and that will be the lead-in for you to go to the next witness. And everybody stick to that rule, please.
I agree, but I just came out of the meeting.
To speak, when you're done making your point, after asking your question, say, I'm finished, and then we can move on.
Right, so now my next question, I'm gonna have to go out and come back in, there's an echo. Sorry.
It is not you. Someone is.
No, I think it's me. It's definitely me, I'm coming out. And I'm gonna come back in, sorry. There, okay. All right, so I'm gonna move on to the next commissioner. Would that be Commissioner, okay, Brooks, do you have another question, please? Amazing. A million people are screaming.
I want to reply to Mr. Mariconda, that this is not a, this application, when you come before us for variances, you're asking for something that doesn't exist in a perfect world. You're asking for something to be changed. So if you're asking for 6 family, you have 7 variances here. That's not a permitted use. The permitted use will come in if we give you these 7 variances. If we don't give you the 7 variances, you don't have a permitted use. That's the way that works. So Mr. Ahmed was correct. You're doing 25 by 100, but you also have 7 variances here for six units. So, I mean, don't tell Mr. Ahmed that it was a permitted use, because it's not. It's only a permitted use if we grant you all of these variances.
It is a permitted use, ask your counsel.
A permitted use if we give you the variances.
Those are 2 separate.
Ask the council that.
Those are 2 separate questions. Mr. Aquilina?
This is not a use variance. Okay, the use that is being proposed is permitted. What they are seeking are bulk variances. Okay, there's a big difference. If there was not a permitted use, they would be before the Board of Adjustment.
I understand.
So the use that they're proposing, albeit residential, is a permitted use. Now, they are seeking variance relief to get the size of the building and the number of the units they want. So in that respect, you're correct. Without the variance relief, they cannot build what they want to build.
Exactly.
But the use that they are proposing is permitted. I mean, if they were coming in to, put a shopping center, that's a different story. It's not permitted in the zone. But residential use is permitted. It's all the other things that go into it, as you indicated, or I believe it was you that indicated, that there were 7 variances. That's what the board has to consider.
Exactly. I'm done.
Okay. Any other questions, commissioners?
I think the councilman was trying to ask a question.
I'm sorry, who?
I think the councilman was asking a question.
Yes.
So what, Councilman Kalik? I heard him earlier. Councilman Kalik, do you have anything?
Yes, I do. I just want to ask the council, what is the job of or responsibility of the planning board commissioner? It seems like we are all over. Can you let us know? We also telling the developer what to do, what not to do. I think we could suggest them something. It seems like we are demanding. So can you give us a briefing of what's the job of planning commissioner?
Yes, and I'm going to defer to the attorney who could put it better than I. You're muted.
With what I was saying to Commissioner Brooks. The purpose of the planning board is not to permit an unpermitted use to take place in the lot that the application is applying to. The purpose of the planning board is to determine whether or not the ordinances as written create a hardship for what it is that the applicant wants to propose. Now, I'm sure Mr. Williams will go into great detail into the different types of standards. But for example, if you have a zone that has a 50 by 100 lot, has a minimum requirement of 50 by 100 lot, with only 1 family uses, so to speak, and an applicant comes in to propose a 2-family use, it's the board's job to determine whether or not that use fits within the character of the neighborhood, and whether or not the relief that they're requesting, which is maybe going a little bit more to the side, to the front, to the back, maybe a little bit more floor area beyond what the ordinances and zoning ordinance permit, whether that is still okay in light of the ordinances in this particular situation, in light of the redevelopment plan. But it is not this board's charge to determine whether or not a proposed use is permitted. The use is permitted. The board has to determine whether or not the size of the units may be too much, the height of the building may be too much, the width of the building may be too much, all of those things. And if the board determines that even though those things encroach upon or intrude upon what the ordinances strictly require, if the board still believes that that would work in this situation, the board can approve it, notwithstanding what the ordinance said. Likewise, if the board can say, no, this is too intrusive, it's too high, it's too big, there's too many units, we don't believe it fits here, we don't want it. It doesn't comply with what we believe it should comply with. So that's, in general, what the board has to decide, but I just want to emphasize, it is not dealing with the use. The use that is being proposed is permitted. If it wasn't, it would not be before this board.
Thank you. Councilman Kalik, did that help you?
Yes, I'm done. Thank you.
Right. I mean, there's very few applications that we get that don't require some sort of a variance, just FYI. I mean, if they were all clean cut, we'd be in and out of here in
Also,
15 minutes.
if they did not need the variances, both variances, they would not be in front of us. That's
Right,
the only reason they're here.
right. So that being, right. So, okay, I'm glad he was able to answer your question.
Chairwoman. Chairwoman,
Who's calling me?
Commissioner Zavalos.
Hi, Commissioner Ceballos. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I don't know who can answer it from the 7 variances requesting now. Any way possible to reduce any of those variances?
Well, Commissioner Savalas, what we'd like to do is present Mr. Williams' testimony, and I think once you hear his testimony from a planning perspective, we then may be able to have some dialogue if need be. But I think he will be giving you a very straightforward and specific explanation about why these variances should be granted in the normal course of presentation as we have in other cases. But if you wish, I'll go off the record at any time you wish, if you wish me to speak to my client. But I think it's really imperative that we hear a planning testimony first. Whatever you wish.
Proceed then.
Thank you.
You're muted.
Any other questions from any other commissioners? Okay, Mr. Maricondo, call your next witness, which I'm assuming is Mr. Williams.
It is, yes.
Go ahead.
You swear affirm testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I most certainly do.
Say your full name for the record.
I will, Madam Court Reporter, good evening, Commissioners. My name is George Weigel Williams with the Nishwayne Group. Williams spelled Williams, and we're located at 105 Grove Street, Suite number 3 in Montclair, New Jersey.
Thank you, and we accept him as an expert witness. Thank you. Please proceed.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. I know, Mr. Williams, I would assume you would be having an exhibit marked at the beginning of your presentation. Is that correct?
Yes, that is.
You want to proceed in that manner first? That's fine.
Okay. Actually,
You want to do an opening first?
if you don't mind, I'm just going to take a moment to deviate from my normal pattern and reframe the discussion a little bit in light of some of the conversation the commissioners have, and then I'll go into the reliefs that are being sought, the exhibit that will give some context for our planning testimony by looking at the site and surrounding area, and finally the requisite statutory proofs for those reliefs. Thank you. And so, Commissioners, a lot of good discussion, and I understand some of the frustration. I think my colleague, Mr. Deutsch, and I provide planning testimony, which is filled with a lot of planning ease and sometimes legal ease, and sometimes we forget what the essence of the planning process is. So what I would like to do to frame the discussion is just begin by reminding the board that this site is in a redevelopment area, and I say that in every application that I provide testimony for, but perhaps it's just worth reiterating what a redevelopment area is. And so, as most of you know, a redevelopment area is part of an area that's been deemed in need of redevelopment because it's considered having a number of indicators that are negative. vacancies, abandoned buildings, unpaid taxes, poor structural quality, and crime, for example. And so in New Jersey, under the New Jersey local housing and redevelopment law, municipalities like Paterson are enabled to redress those indices of blight through redevelopment planning. And I know I often say in my comments that Paterson's redevelopment planning should be applauded because it succeeds. So let me just talk about what the redevelopment law says for a moment. Redevelopment under the local housing redevelopment law is a process to restore an area in measurable state of decline, which clearly fits much of the Fourth Ward, disinvestment or abandonment. Redevelopment may be publicly or privately initiated, but is commonly recognized as a process governed by the local redevelopment and housing law and undertaken in accordance with a redevelopment plan adopted by the municipality. If used correctly, it can transform a distressed area into an economically viable and productive part of the community. I was just reading from the redevelopment handbook, which I'm sure many of you have seen. So that's the construct for the applications that are coming to you in the Fourth Ward and other redevelopment ward plans in Paterson. Again, the whole purpose of the redevelopment planning law is to address distressed communities in a way that the normal market factors and controls would not. So in those areas where you don't have distressed indicators in Paterson, there's no redevelopment plan, and the normal zoning ordinance and master plan would apply. In Paterson, the Fourth Ward redevelopment area, it speaks to the importance of redevelopment planning in Paterson and in the Fourth Ward in particular because of the indices of abandonment, vacant properties, and other indicators of poor performance. In your opportunities for strategic development section of the redevelopment plan, it goes to the issue at hand for this application. It speaks to vacant and abandoned properties. And those are properties that are vacant or abandoned, diminish the value of neighborhoods, and can be havens for criminal and illicit activity. These properties are a burden to the city and should be aggressively pursued with actions to reduce their blighting impacts. And then you fast forward to your Fourth Ward redevelopment plan goals and objectives, some of which were mentioned in Mr. Deutsch's report, and they go to addressing that primary goal of a redevelopment plan, which is to aggressively reduce vacancies in the Fourth Ward because of the negative impact they have on the community and abandoned buildings and property. So that's the broad context. I just want to bring the board back to that context because it is certainly different than those portions of the city that are not in redevelopment areas. And someone mentioned, I don't know if it was Mr. Mariconda or Mr. Deutsch or the chairwoman, that this redevelopment plan is your city's vision for this particular neighborhood and this area. It's the legislative body and the planning board that adopted this redevelopment plan with those goals and objectives. The opportunity to amend that plan always exists, but in today's hearing, we're speaking to an application that is governed strictly by the redevelopment plan that's been adopted. With that broad context, the reliefs we're seeking today, and Commissioner Savalas asked about those reliefs, they were captured in Mr. Deutsch's report. Commissioner mentioned 7. I would submit to the board there are 2 pre-existing conditions that do not comport with the strict application of your code. Those 2 conditions are, and I believe Commissioner Ahmed mentioned one of them, the minimum lot area. The minimum lot area requirement in this section of the Fourth Ward redevelopment area is 5,000 square feet, and you heard a calculation by Mr. Deutsch and Mr. Evans that what we have is less than that minimum lot area. It comes in at approximately 3,125 square feet. The other pre-existing nonconformity is the lot width. The lot width requirement for this district is 50 feet, and we come in at 25. I'm going to pause there for a second and suggest this board that under the Cortesini case, and good planning principles, where the deviation from the strict application of your code is a pre-existing deviation, like the two I just mentioned, meaning it is what it is. It's not going to change. You can't change the lot area. You can't change the lot width. There is no need to seek additional relief for those pre-existing nonconformities. It's important to list them on the record, but in my professional opinion as a planner, no additional relief is required under the Portacini court case. That leaves commissioners, in my opinion, for bulk and area deviations. And there's been discussion already about whether the board discusses permitted, non-permitted uses. I think we put that to bed. So the focus now before the board is basically 4 deviations from a strict application of your bulk and area code. The first one's minimum rear yard setback. I will submit to this board, it's a relatively minor deviation, but that's something we will discuss. It's 20 foot required, 17 feet 44 inches proposed. The second is minimum side yard setback for one side. 5 foot is required, 0 is proposed. Maximum building coverage, 60% is the maximum building coverage. We come in slightly higher at 65% building coverage for a delta of 5%. And the fourth and final, is open space and amenity space. 900 feet is required, and we come in at 579 square feet of open space. So for the board's edification, if you think about the jurisdiction of the board and the construct of this deliberation, the focus of the board is really on those 4, I would submit, relatively minor bulk and area deviations. Going back to the context of the redevelopment plan before I turn to the exhibit, the redevelopment plan for the 4th Ward, as mentioned by Mr. Deutsch, sets forth the following as objectives for this 4th Ward redevelopment area. First, revitalize the 4th Ward of the city. Part and parcel revitalization is the removal of the vacant and abandoned properties and the infill of quality development. And that's what's before you this evening. The second is reduce blighting impacts of abandoned and vacant properties from page 27, excuse me. Again, that is exactly the point of this application. Provide quality new housing options for area residents, options. The redevelopment plan is very specific about removing the indices of blight, vis-a-vis vacant properties, abandoned buildings, and providing quality housing options. And so you've heard discussions from Mr. Reed and others about how this applicant seeks to provide different housing opportunities throughout the city and certainly in the 4th Ward. In this particular instance, what's being proposed to you this evening is 6 dwelling units, but all of them relatively small and all of them 1 bedrooms, as opposed to a higher bedroom count on this property. Based on my review of the site plan application, the conversations with Mr. Reed and Matt Evans, our design team, in my professional opinion, there are more than adequate planning proofs based on the municipal land use law requirements for the 4 bulk and area deviations that were just discussed a moment ago. To help give context for the proofs that are required for those deviations, I'd like to share an exhibit that just shows you what the site looks like today and gives you a sense of what the surrounding area looks like as well. I always hasten to add, I fully acknowledge that you all know this area as well as, if not better than I, but as I go through my exhibit, my intent will be to frame the final part of my testimony in terms of the site descriptions. So with that, I'd like to share my screen. Excuse me.
Mr. Aquaviva, do we have to mark this as exhibit, or did we do that?
Mr. Williams, was that submitted?
And Mr. Equiviva, I don't recall the number of slides, so I'll answer that question at the end of the exhibit, if you don't mind.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair and Council. So again, nothing earth-shaking here, but it's just to give context for the requisite testimony about the proofs. The first slide, we always include this just to, for the record, acknowledge that we are certainly in the RA2 district. In this case, our site is indicated with the red shading and black bold boundary. This is slide number 2, showing we are in the RA2 zoning district of the 4th Ward. Slide number 3, another perspective, also an aerial photograph looking at the site, again shaded in red with a bold black border. This is to give you a sense of its context. Located on Governor Street at 207, as was mentioned earlier, and not far from Rosa Parks Boulevard. What's also instructive from the aerial view is you get a sense, and this goes to Commissioner Ahmed's discussion about lot sizes, you get a sense of what the land development pattern is in this section of the 4th Ward redevelopment area. And you can do that by looking at the rooftops, which are the darker shades, in some cases lighter shades, in each of the lot rectangles you see on this site. I would submit to the board, without doing any calculations, there are a number of undersized lots in this section of the 4th Ward redevelopment area. In fact, your redevelopment plan mentions that there are opportunities to develop these undersized lots so that they do not remain vacant or abandoned. I'm going to note that our slide also refers to a 2,500 square foot lot area. I will concede to Mr. Deutsch's calculation on the fly based on the survey, and we can certainly amend our exhibit and submit a clean copy. Slide number 4 is a frontal view of the property. You get a sense of, well, first of all, you see it's vacant, but you can also see by looking at the surrounding properties that many of them are narrow, given the undersized nature of the lots in this area, and of similar, bulk or scale as what's being proposed. Slide number 5 is a photo of 208 and 206 Governor Street, 3-story multifamily residence. 206 Governor is also a 3-story multifamily residence, and both are located directly across the street from the subject property, and the setbacks are very similar, if not almost exactly the same as what's being proposed this evening. That's significant for a couple of reasons. When you hear me speak about the negative criteria, and that's a standard that's required for the granting of the bulk and area release we're seeking, you'll harken back to this picture. So when I speak to the fact that if you were to grant our relief, it would not constitute a substantial detriment to the public good, meaning there are similar site layouts in the immediate vicinity, so ours would certainly not constitute a detriment to this area. But also these pictures give you a sense of some of the trending scale and massing in this area. South of the project site at 210 Governor Street is a larger development. This is a 4-story multifamily residence with 42 dwelling units, which is also constructed by this applicant. The difference is, in my opinion, the location of this site versus the infill development that's before you this evening. And again, I would submit to the board that what's being proposed this evening as infill development is appropriate given the development on either side of our property and further down the road. So this is the final slide. It's 6 slides in total. Again, just to give some context for the remainder of my testimony. With that, Mr. Mariconda, I'll go to the release.
Attorney Rick, proceed in that sense, that's fine.
Okay, so commissioners, Again, I know you hear my colleague, Mr. Deutsch, and I go through this recitation, but we do it purposefully, because it's important for, on Mr. Deutsch's side, to give you the benefit of his analysis. On my side, it's important to focus the discussion or deliberation on what the law says is an appropriate deliberation. Or, put a different way, what is required on the part of the applicant to get an approval by the board. So remembering that I mentioned that under the Cortesini case, we don't seek relief for the pre-existing nonconformities, which are lot area and lot width. That leaves us with the 4 deviations from your bulk and area standards. There are 2 contexts for seeking relief from bulk and area deviations. The first, as this board knows, is the C1 traditional hardship standard. And that standard suggests, or makes it clear, that for us to get relief for these deviations from the strict application of your code, that we have to demonstrate to this board that a hardship exists which makes the relief appropriate. And those typical hardships are unique shape, size, topography of the site. In this case, certainly we do have a unique size because we're an undersized lot, or that the structure lawfully thereon makes it a hardship to comply with your code. So if there were another building on our site and we couldn't comply with the rear yard setback because of that building, that would constitute a hardship. The other context is the C2 context. That is commonly referred to as a flexible C variance. And that allows boards like the Paterson Planning Board to consider if, on the whole, the benefits outweigh the detriments. To prove a C2 variance, you have to show that it's grounded in the purposes of zoning, which I'm about to do, that what's being proposed is a better zoning alternative than a strict application of the code, which is significant, particularly when dealing with infill housing in redevelopment areas. And last but not least, there's a court case, the Pullen court case, that suggests, and you've heard me say this in the past, where you have an application that has a couple, or in this case 4, minor deviations from the bulk and area standards, the board is encouraged to look at the overall benefit of the project and the release as a whole, as opposed to looking at them individually. Certainly, I think I submit to the board that the Pullen court case guidance is appropriate for this application, given the challenges of developing an undersized lot in a redevelopment area with some of the indices I mentioned in my introductory comments. Going to the proofs for the C2, and I'm grouping each of the 4 deviations together. It has to be rooted in the purposes of zoning. In my professional opinion as a planner, subsection A of the purposes of zoning would be advanced if you were to approve our application. Subsection A of the purposes of zoning, as outlined in the municipal land use law, goes as follows. To encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use or development of all lands in the state in a manner which will promote the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. It's a bit of a catch-all phrase, and that's why it's the first, or purpose rather. That's why it's the first purpose, but I submit that it's particularly appropriate in this application because if approved, the applicant will remove a condition of blight, in this case a vacant lot, and thereby improve the health, safety, and welfare of the general community. That's a purpose of zoning that accrues benefit not just to the applicant, but to the community as a whole. Subsection J, to prevent urban sprawl and degradation of the environment through improper use of land, that speaks specifically to the role of redevelopment planning and smart growth policies in New Jersey, which suggests that good planning should target infill development in urban areas, particularly redevelopment areas, where the benefit is the greatest, as opposed to encouraging sprawl where infrastructure may not exist. And so in my opinion, the infill development project presented to you today would advance that purpose of zoning. Finally, subsection I to promote a desirable visual environment through creative development techniques and good civic design. The testimony by Mr. Evans, in my opinion, supports subsection I, both in terms of the aesthetics of the building and the design of the site. Mr. Evans spoke about the mix of materials, the fenestration, hiding of the HVAC infrastructure in the rooftop behind the parapet, and the use of landscaping in the front, and moreover, the open space, albeit less than is required, and we're looking for a deviation for that, at the rear of the property. All of those things taken together, all the advancements of those purposes of zoning, foster the goals and objectives of your redevelopment plan, and in that sense, in my opinion, as a planner, offer a better zoning alternative than a strict application of your code. Keep in mind, commissioners, I began with the discussion about the context of redevelopment planning, the redevelopment planning process, and your redevelopment plan for the Fourth Ward redevelopment area. The rationale for a redevelopment plan is that but for that redevelopment plan, investment is not occurring. Without the investment and development in the area, the conditions of blight continue. Abandoned properties, vacant properties, some of the crime rates, under unpaid taxes, etc. So if you look at the proposal before you this evening, on the whole, despite its deviations from the lot coverage, the rear side yard one side, the open space, on the whole, given the context of this redevelopment area, this particular neighborhood, those deviations will yield a better development proposal than a strict application of your code. In my opinion, there's no detriment by granting those 4 relatively minor deviations from your bulk and area code, but there are several benefits. I'm not going to rehash the benefits, but certainly one of the primary ones, and that one being the advancement of your redevelopment plan goals and objectives, is the removal of vacant property. But it's also the infill of housing, quality housing, with the design mentioned by Mr. Evans. What's important for me to leave or end with is that in terms of the negative criteria, the word substantial comes directly from the municipal land use law. And so while the benefits, I think, I submit are significant, if not substantial, if there were any detriments from deviating from the strict application of your code for those 4 bulk and area standards, they certainly would not rise to the level of substantial. And that's why I showed in my exhibit the land development pattern in the surrounding area, where you can see either through rooftops or frontal images that many of the properties in this area have very similar deviations from the strict application of your code. So therefore, there would be no substantial detriment to the public good. Finally, commissioners, there would certainly be no substantial impairment to your zone plan, because in this case, your plan recommends exactly the type of housing typology or housing typology option that's being proposed this evening. So with that, I submit to the board that, in my opinion as a professional planner, licensed in the state of New Jersey, nationally certified by the American Institute of Certified Planners, there are ample proofs for the reliefs sought for those 4 relatively minor deviations from your bulk and area code. They're grounded in the purpose of zoning. There are significant benefits that would accrue not just to the applicant, but to the community as a whole. They advance the purposes of your redevelopment plan in a very significant and targeted way, and there are no substantial detriments to the public good, nor impairment to your zone plan. That concludes my testimony, and I'm certainly available to answer what I assume will be several questions.
Okay, that being said, thank you for your presentation. I'm going to open it up to the public at this time, not only for questions of Mr. Williams, but you may make a comment. I believe we have one caller who would like to make a comment. So please call in at 973-321-1579. The meeting ID number is 711-680-001. And I'm going to allow 3 minutes for call-ins. 2 minutes for call-ins, and I'll allow 3 minutes for comments. Okay, thank you.
I'm still called in, Madam Chairperson.
Okay, that's fine. I will find out from the secretary if we have any other callers. Madam Secretary, any other callers?
I'd like to expect this gentleman to give me 1 moment, make sure I can
Okay.
open up the window, and I'll be right back with you. Thank you.
Okay, okay.
The chairwoman, just note that Mr. Aquaviva may sign back in again. He's having trouble with his camera. Okay, so.
Okay, let's give him a minute to get back.
You can open it up to this gentleman, and we do not have any callers. Let's just leave it open. When he's done, you have no other callers.
Fine, but I'm gonna wait till Mr. Aquaviva gets on in case there's a question that Mr. Algera has, that maybe, I cannot answer that Mr. Aquaviva can. So I'm gonna try to give it a minute to let Mr. Aquaviva get on.
Absolutely, thank you very much.
Okay.
Mr. Aquaviva, are you there, sir?
All right, for the sake of time, I'm gonna open up the question to Mr. Algera, just in case, if there should be, an issue and we can't answer the question, then we'll just wait for, Mr. Aquaviva to get back on. Mr. Algera, are you there? Mr. Algera, are you there?
I don't see him.
I see his name, but I don't see him.
Mr. Algera, this is Maggie Vega. If you can please *6 and unmute yourself on your phone.
All right, no, yeah.
There you are, sir. Thank
Can you
you.
hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
okay, and I also see Mr. Aquaviva's name, but I don't see him yet, but we're gonna go ahead with the question. Mr. Algera, if you have a question, okay, for Mr. Williams, based on his testimony, please say so. If not, if it's just your comment, please go ahead and make your comment. I'll allow 3 minutes for your comments, 3 minutes for your questions. Please go ahead.
Okay, so I'll just ask my one question to Mr. Williams. Mr.
Okay.
Williams, it sounded to me like you were telling, that you were telling the commissioners that they could not, that they had to grant the variance for the lot size, for the width and for the square footage. It sounded to me like you were telling them they could not vote against that. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I'm not sure I understand the question perfectly. Let me try and answer it. If I misunderstood you, can certainly correct me. I cited a court case that suggests or provides guidance for boards that when there is a pre-existing nonconformity for a bulk and area standard like lot area and lot width, if we're not exacerbating that, then there's no need for additional relief. So I did say that. I'll just finish real quickly. If this board were to decide they still wanted to hear proofs for the pre-existing non-conformities, I would certainly submit that the C1 context, as I described earlier, unusual shape, size, topography, etc., or structures lawfully thereon would be that context. This is it would be a hardship to comply with a standard that cannot be complied with, which is why the Cortesenzi case suggests that additional relief is not required.
All right, well, I just wanted to clarify because I heard Mr. Acavita saying earlier that you do need the relief of those first 2 points as well. So let me just give my whole remarks and you'll be rid of me. To the Board of Commissioners, I strongly ask you to vote no on these variances. There's no question that the Fourth Ward is in need of development, but this development does not meet the Fourth Ward redevelopment plan. It does not meet the intent for medium density, but rather it's creating high density. It does not meet all the design standards. This building, although meeting the streetscape of across the street, will not look good with the streetscape where it's being built. The white house that we were looking at the picture of across the street is a 2-family house that's there. Also, the Fourth Ward redevelopment plan calls for a development of home ownership and renters. In the 12-block area around this project, there are more than 130 homeowners, and this project will build on the lot line, right on the lot line of one of them next door. So, first of all, I recommend you vote no because it does not meet the Fourth Ward redevelopment plan. Secondly, to vote no because it does not meet the zoning laws. I submit, with all due respect, Mr. Williams, that the lot size is substantial. It's substantially too small. And the rear yard and the open space, the rear yard is only 425 square feet for 6 families to use. Just think about that. The open space of 900 square foot required, we have 579, but that includes an alley, which can hardly be counted. Last month you did approve 2 buildings like this, but that doesn't mean you need to approve this building. I encourage you to vote no for these variances for the good of the neighborhood, that something can be built that meets the requirements of the law. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may, I would like to just direct 1 or 2 quick questions to Mr. Algier.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Algier, you indicated you lived on East 25th Street. Do you own any real estate or have an interest in any real estate in the Fourth Ward?
I have devoted 42 years of my life to living and ministering in the Fourth Ward.
Okay, so
I have a deep interest and love for the Fourth Ward.
So that's a professional ministry that you're involved with in the Fourth Ward, but you do not live or own real estate there?
Not on Governor Street, I do not, no.
Okay, thank you very much.
Let me ask you a question then, Mr. Maritana. If we're asking questions like that, would you want this building built next door to your house on your lot line?
It's a very traditional trick that's used sometimes in cases such as this. And I can tell you that you're the witness before the board. You're the one that's under oath, or should be. And I have that prerogative to ask you that question.
Okay.
Because it goes to the credibility and nature of your objection.
Okay, I don't want any infighting here. I'm gonna open this up then. Mr. Algier, you are done with your questions?
I am done. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, so I'm gonna open this up now to the commissioners. Any questions of Mr. Williams? Okay, commissioners, no questions of Mr. Williams. Okay, Mr. Mariconda, one last thing, Councilman, oh God, Commissioner Ceballos? do you want to talk to them about the variances anymore?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay.
At the testimony from Mr. Williams, maybe I hear it wrong, but he said that the building coverage go from 60% to 65% or 62%, which one is it?
Mr. Deutsch's report indicates 62%. Mr. Williams can speak on his own behalf if there's a differential there.
All right, so according with the paperwork they're looking right now at 62%. But yet again, my questions, I could remain the same. I mean, the design of the lot, still, my drawing show the existing conditions of 7 variances requested. And I need to know if any way possible that this can be, I don't want to say what we want to use, modify or look in different ways to avoid as many variances on the application.
Commissioner Ceballos, I believe the pre-existing conditions cannot be. I mean, they are what they are, and, you know, in terms of that, the pre-existing ones. The other ones, that's up to Mr. Mariconda, what they want to do.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I could just indicate to you, and Mr. Williams is free to follow up, that we believe this testimony has covered each and every variance with respect to the bulk variances that are relatively minimal. But what I'd like to do is just go off the record for one moment, if I could, to have a quick consultation with my client. May I do that?
Yes, please, go ahead, make it quick.
Here, can I ask you a question?
Commissioner Brooks, who do you want to ask the question of?
You just said that the pre-existing conditions exist is nothing. There is no pre-existing conditions of this.
I thought I heard I thought I heard that the lot width was pre-existing. I came in on the tail end of this, I don't have the paperwork in front of me, I thought the testimony said that the lot width was pre-existing and you can't make it bigger. That's what I thought I heard, and that's why I'm saying if it's pre-existing and there's no place to move the lot to, then you can. Am I correct, Mr. Williams?
Yes, Madam Chair. Commissioner Brooks, what I was referring to were the 2, preliminary relief.
May I interject a moment? Mr. Acquaviva, we're not on the record until the applicant has returned. Are we to proceed with testimony without the applicant's attorney?
What applicant's attorney? I'm looking at Mr. Mariconda.
No, I thought they were taking a few minutes off the record.
But I thought but she was asking me on the record.
I was.
I
Yes.
understand, okay.
But Mr. Williams,
Yes, Commissioner.
I'm not talking about
Madam Chair,
the
we're back
lot
on.
size.
Madam Chair, we're back on.
Okay, wait. Okay, please, before we go, I get Mr. Williams' confirmation about what I said, okay, let's go back to Mr. Mariconda.
Sure, thank you, Madam Chair. We just had a quick conference off the record. What we'd like to do in consideration of the dialogue that has occurred tonight is offer a 1-unit reduction to 5 units, and Mr. Evans can explain how that would take place on the first floor of the building. Mr. Evans?
Okay, so we're gonna reduce it from 6 1-bedrooms to 5 1-bedrooms. And on the ground floor plan, we're gonna have where the refuse and the utilities are, we are gonna make that into a community room for the tenants, and that would be, the extent of the revision. So we would add some more amenity space for the project and have it as a, 5 units, so we're reducing it, by 1 unit.
Okay, so that community room would be how big roughly in square footage?
It would take, basically removing the, existing, apartment in the rear, which is the smallest apartment, and we would, have that as community space.
And so approximately how much square footage?
600 square feet.
About approximately 600 square footage, which is very substantial for interior community room amenities.
Yes.
Okay, and then, so we're left with 5 units. That reduces, obviously, a substantial amount of density in the building.
Yes.
Okay, and again, the applicant has agreed with that, Madam Chair, and we'd like the board to consider that at this time.
Okay, thank you, but I wanna go back to Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams, I wanna talk about the pre-existing condition of the lot width. Can you please explain that again, please, so that they understand?
Yes, Madam Chair, Commissioner Brooks and Commissioners Paul. In my recitation of the reliefs, I mentioned that there are 2 deviations from the bulk and area standards, or quote unquote pre-existing non-conforming conditions, and they are lot area, where 5,000 square feet is required, 3,125 exists. Not proposed, it exists, so it's a pre-existing deviation from the standard from this section of your code. The other is lot width. 50 feet is required, and the existing lot width is 25. Again, it's a pre-existing condition. It's not proposed. It is what exists today, so it's a pre-existing deviation from the strict application of your code.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions from any other?
Yes, Mr. Williams, so what you're saying is that the 25 feet, that's not, you need a variance. So it's not if it's preconditioned, it's preconditioning based on the fact that it doesn't meet the actual requirement. Am I right or not?
I understand what you're saying, but in my line of work, the terminology is extremely important, right? So what I've tried to convey to the board is, A, there are 2 site conditions which are pre-existing and they do not conform with your code. The lot is what it is, right?
Right.
The second part of my testimony, B, would be that under the court case that I cited, the courts have recommended to boards that when there are these types of pre-existing deviations from the strict application of your code, again, it is what it is sort of scenario, then additional relief is not required. Why? Because the proof is almost self-explanatory, right? So if we had to get relief, it would be the simple C1 hardship, meaning that you can't comply with the code because you only have a finite piece of property, and those dimensions are what they are. So that's why the court I always mispronounce and I apologize for that. The Cortesini case says additional relief is not required for this type of pre-existing deviations from your code.
Let me ask you this then.
Sure.
If it's not required, if it's not required, why do we have to give you a variance?
I'm suggesting you don't.
So why would a variance be required?
I'm suggesting it's not.
Well, on this application it is.
Mr. Deutsch's review indicates it's a variance, Mr. Williams, under the bulk requirements.
It's a bulk requirement, yeah.
The thrust of your testimony also is that we don't have to provide additional proofs regarding those pre-existing conditions. That's the justification. Is that a fair characterization?
Yes, and I think I mentioned in my testimony, Commissioner Brooks, it is not atypical to list even the pre-existing non-conformities in the variance table. And then it's my job to explain to the board why no additional relief is sought. But for the record to be complete, I would agree it should be identified as a pre-existing deviation from your code.
Okay,
I'm done.
okay, thank you. All right,
I have a question.
yes, Councilman Ahmed, please, Councilman. Now I promoted you, sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner.
This is just a suggestion. Mr. Reed, do you think that you can do anything about the first floor? Like instead of having 2 rooms, and can you show us like little parking spot or something, like anything you can do?
Well, we can't do that, but we're already, on the ground floor, we already removed 1 total unit and making it, like a recreation area, so you're removing 1 total apartment.
So there is no room for you to do anything on the first floor, like?
No, we did on the first floor, we removed 1 unit completely.
Right, we think that's the most
We're reducing from 6 units to 5 units, and removing the 1 unit in the rear on the ground floor, and, converting that to a recreational space, which is about 600 square feet for the tennis use.
provides a really nice community room. We think that's the best kind of reduction that makes sense.
Maybe instead of community room, maybe you can show us like maybe like 2 or 3 parking spots.
Can I just ask, can you put the plans back up there real quick so we can show the commissioner, yeah, what?
Chair, give me one moment, Matt stepped away. Matt, can you come back and post your plan again? I'm sorry, Madam Chair. Just give me one more moment. I apologize, he stepped away on another virtual,
Yeah, when Matt come back, he'll put the plan back up, but I think it would be a better use for all the tenants as a whole to have that recreation, that 600 square foot additional recreation space in the rear, where any one of them can utilize it. Let's say if they have a birthday party for themselves or kids like that, or any type of event, they could, do it, they could all share that, one room whenever they need it.
And Madam Chair, from a planning perspective,
All the tenants.
that's a good trade-off for the open space, deviation from your standards. So while we will not meet the strict open space requirements, there's now interior recreation space. And so that's a good trade-off in the C2 context for that variance.
Okay, please show commission.
Excuse me, I'd like to say something, please. If you're going to speak, let the other one finish, so Melinda, the court reporter, can, document everything that is said. Thank you.
Fine. Okay, while I'm said, I was gonna say something, okay, I would like Mr. Evans to show the first floor, okay, to Commissioner Ahmed, where this change is going to take place.
Mr. Evans, if you would delineate on your first floor plan how the unit will be completely eliminated and provide the amenity community room?
Okay, as you see on the first floor plan, we have the refuse recycle and the sprinkler utility, and there's a door going back to that. Basically, we would use that whole space as amenity space and remove the apartment, and then the rest of the apartments would remain as is, based on that core development, central corridor and stair, that would remain. So everything in the rear would be part of the amenity space.
And that would essentially, Mr. Williams can confirm it, and I think you already did take us over the top in terms of the open space requirement.
Yeah, that would definitely do that, and we would have additional storage, amenity space, and even could put a fitness center in there also. So we have a lot of space to work with.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ahmed? I think what they're saying is that even if they remove the one apartment, it's still too small to put any parking, that's what they're saying, because these are only 1-bedroom units. I might be wrong in that, but I think that's.
And this way also, this right here would benefit all 5 of the tenants, and like, Mr. Evans said, we even, if they want, we'll put like a fitness center, a little gym in there if they want it, and some, so they can all benefit from it.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ahmed, any other questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay, all right, any other commissioners have any questions? Okay, hearing none, okay, Mr. Mariconda?
Thank you again, Madam Chair. I want to make this very brief. I think we've really worked very hard on this application from both sides of the aisle, so to speak, in terms of the applicant's presentation and the commissioners. I want to thank everyone for the work that they put into this application. I think we've arrived at a very positive result in terms of the very limited bulk variances that are required. I think this is a very positive application for a specific demographic need in this area, and I urge the board to consider a motion for approval. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm going to open it up now, commissioners. Would any commissioner like to make a motion on this application? Commissioners, anyone? Would anyone like? Yes, Commissioner Dean?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, please.
On the application of JCM Investor, 1012 LLC, 449 East 18th Street, Paterson, New Jersey, 07524.
Commissioner, can I interrupt you 1 second, please? My apologies. I just wanted to clarify something very quickly before you make your motion. Whoever can answer this question. By removing that rear unit, what is the actual square footage of the proposed recreation room or open space, whatever it is that you want to call it?
Mr. Evans testified approximately 600 square feet, is that correct?
Yeah, I didn't hear that. Was it 600?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Commissioner. I apologize.
Sure, no problem. Alright, so let me go back to the application. It says, right here. On the application of Jason Investor, 1012 LLC, 449 East 18th Street, Paterson, New Jersey, 07524. Property address 207 Governor Street, Block 3211, Lot 33. I move that the Board of 20 prepare a resolution granting the site plan approval, park variances, subject to city engineer approval and HEB soil conservation district approval.
Thank you. Mr. Acquaviva, would that spell out then the motion on this application with
I believe so. After everything I've heard tonight, I heard that one.
I wanted to know, can I see the conditions again?
My understanding was that the application was going to be reduced to 5 units. The rear residential apartment was going to be removed. And in its place was going to be approximately 600 square feet of a recreation room, which would essentially be treated as open space. I didn't hear any other, based upon all this testimony, I didn't hear any other amendments on the record or any other revisions.
Nor did I.
Okay.
Nor did
That was
I.
it.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner
I'm
Dean.
sorry, excuse me, I need to clarify something. You're gonna reduce 2 of the units, right?
No.
5
1 unit.
One unit is going to be reduced. It's going to go from 6 to 5. The rear first floor unit was going to be.
I got that. I just want to know how many of these units that are being reduced, are they 2 bedrooms, 1 bedrooms?
It's the rear
One.
first floor unit.
Okay, thank you.
Bedroom.
Got it, thank you.
Okay. All right. Do I have a second? Commissioners?
Second, I'll second it. Councilman.
Yeah, is that Commissioner Kalik?
Councilman Khalid.
Councilman Kalik, yes. I'm making somebody else a councilman and making you a commissioner. Okay. All right, roll call, please.
Commissioner Ahmed?
Can I abstain?
Abstain, thank you. Commissioner Brooks?
No.
Commissioner Savalos?
Yes.
Commissioner Santana? Say it again?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Udine?
Yes.
Commissioner Figueroa?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilman Kalik?
Yes.
Commissioner Forestieri?
Yes.
And Chairwoman Northrup?
I think I was told earlier that I'm not allowed to vote.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I apologize. You're right.
Okay.
Correct. So I have 4, 6 in the affirmative and 1 abstain. Mr. Acquaviva, the vote on this application is granted?
I don't think that counts.
Yes, disapproved.
No, I don't think that was the count.
Hold on a moment.
You missed the count. I said no.
I had 6 yes
Yes,
votes.
hold on 1 moment, please.
Please.
Just give me a second, please. There are 6 in the affirmative, 1 negative, and 1 abstained. You are correct. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so now we're gonna move on to the second application. I make a motion to close this meeting. Everyone, aye? Aye. Okay. All right, now,
You give me 2 minutes? So
yes, I'll give you 2 minutes. Everybody take a 2-minute break, and we'll get back here.
I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay, great. Hey, everybody, is everybody back now? Let's, all stand for the flag salute, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag of the
of the
United States
of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Okay, please be seated. Okay. Commissioners, Planning Board staff, ladies and gentlemen, as Chairwoman of the City of Paterson's Planning Board, I call this meeting of 4/26/21 to order. I hereby state that all the provisions of the State of New Jersey Public Meeting Law have been fully and completely met, that the notice of provisions required have been properly posted in the Planning Board office and with the City of Paterson clerk, that the public notice and advertisements have been published in the Herald News on 4/15/21 in accordance with the law, and that the copies of such notice and public advertisements are on file in the Planning Board office, as is also the agenda listing the applications to be taken up by the Planning Board at this meeting. The procedure tonight will be in accordance with the rules, regulations, and bylaws as heretofore determined by the Planning Board at its office in the municipal complex in the City of Paterson. Roll call, please.
Good evening, Commissioners and staff. Commissioners, Commissioner Fisher is absent. Commissioner Ahmed.
Present.
Commissioner Brooks.
Here.
Commissioner Savalos.
Present.
Commissioner Cleaves is absent. Commissioner Santana.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Issa is absent. Commissioner Udine.
I'm here.
Thank you. Commissioner Figueroa.
Present.
Councilman Kalik.
Present.
Commissioner Forestieri.
Here.
And Chairwoman Northrop.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, notice pursuant to the Open Public Meeting Act addressing effective coronavirus measures on the next public meeting, consistent with the coronavirus-related restrictions of Executive Order Number 107, given on Saturday, March 21st, 2020 by Governor Philip D. Murphy. The Planning Board of the City of Paterson will not conduct in-person participation of the public at all future meetings until further notice. However, public participation will be available by means of communication equipment pursuant to NJSA 10:4-8, commencing on April 15, 2020. Though there may potentially be a practical need for a limited number of administrative, technical, or other city personnel to be present in or near the City Council chambers, 3rd floor City Hall, 155 Market Street, Paterson, New Jersey, in-person participation of the public is prohibited. Nevertheless, for the reasons of compliance with said Executive Order Number 107, public participation will be available by calling 973-321-1579, and the meeting ID is 711-680-001, and I will repeat that later on during the meeting. On the date and time that the meeting is scheduled to commence. The public may also participate in the meeting by accessing the website of the City of Paterson, www.patersonnj.gov, and following the email link for the meeting, www.patersonnj.gov/planning board. Okay, and I believe then tonight, we're gonna be hearing at this meeting, JCM Investors 1012 LLC, 71-87 16th Avenue, Block 4317, Lot 22. Mr. Mariconda, are you representing this applicant?
Yes, Ellen Marcon on behalf of JCM Investors. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. On a vacant lot, the applicant proposes to construct a new 4-story residential building with a total of 15 units. The first floor proposes a lobby area and entry lounge, a package room, a utility room, bicycle storage, a staircase, an elevator, and parking for 11 parking spaces. The second through fourth floor proposes one bedroom unit and 4 2-bedroom units, a refuge and recycling room, and either tenant, and either a tenant amenities. I'm sorry, this doesn't read right, but I'm just gonna say a tenant amenity space, a fitness center, or community space on each floor. Okay, I guess it hasn't been determined exactly. The parcel has lot area of 11,245 square feet and has frontage along both 16th Avenue and Summer Street. This proposal is within the RA-2 zone of the 5th Ward redevelopment plan. Variances are requested for the following. Lot width of 50 feet is required and a lot width of 22 feet and 45 feet are existing. One side yard setback is a minimum of 5 feet is required and 0 feet is provided. Rear yard setback is a minimum of 20 feet is required and 0 feet is proposed. Number of building stories as a 3.5-story building is permitted and a 4-story building is proposed. Lot impervious coverage as a maximum lot impervious coverage of 80% is permitted and 100% is proposed. An open space as 2,250 square feet of open space is required and 1,752 square feet of interior amenity space is proposed. It requires site plan approval and bulk variances. Mr. Deutsch, would you like to give us your review?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Okay.
Property taxes are current. Persons having a 10% or greater ownership interest in JCM Investors LLC is Matthew Florio, providing an address of 449 East 18th Street, Paterson. As indicated on the property survey prepared by Mark Sifone of Lakeland Surveying, the parcel is L-shaped and has frontage of 22.61 feet on 16th Avenue, then proceeds 93.95 feet in a northerly direction, then 222.61 feet in a westerly direction, then 45.58 feet in a southerly direction along Summer Street, then 150 feet in an easterly direction, then again 50.36 feet in a westerly direction, and then 44 feet in a southerly direction to its intersection with 16th Avenue. Parcel's area of 11,245 square feet or 0.26 acres. The parcel has no structures upon it, but is paved and indicates striped parking spaces. 16th Avenue is a one-way street in an easterly direction, and Summer Street is a two-way directional street. Evans Architects has prepared a 4-page architectural submittal dated February 10th, 2021. Drawing S1 indicates the site plan, the zoning ordinance table, site notes, and the 200-foot radius map. Details are shown: the concrete sidewalk detail, the refuse, recycling, enclosure detail, the concrete vertical curb, and roadway pavement widening, and the fence detail. The proposed site plan indicates that the building is to be L-shaped and have pedestrian access from 16th Avenue. The building is proposed on the western side and the northern side property lines. The building is proposed to cover 60% of the lot. At the corner of 16th Avenue and Summer Street, a one-story car wash exists. Vehicular access into the site will be from an existing driveway on Summer Street. Drawing S2 is the site plan and soil erosion plan. The plan indicates the sanitary sewer connection detail, the water connection, the recharge pit detail, the sediment filter fence detail, and the stabilized construction access. Drawing SK1 are floor plans. The first floor plan indicates the 709 square foot entry lobby access from 16th Avenue. A package room, mailboxes, a bike storage area, a sprinkler room, a staircase, an elevator, and a door to the 11-space parking garage, which includes one handicap parking space and an additional stairwell are indicated. The refuse and recycling area for the building is indicated on the exterior of the building next to the car wash property. A door leads from the lobby area outside to the refuse container. The second, third, and fourth floor plans are identical in layout. Each floor has 1 2-bedroom unit and 4 1-bedroom units. The 1 2-bedroom unit on each floor contains 936 square feet. The 4 1-bedroom units on each floor contain 675, 724, 732, and 749 square feet. All 15 of the proposed units contain a mechanical closet, a full bathroom, a laundry closet, and a combined kitchen, dining, and living area. Each floor also contains a refuse and recycling room, and on the second floor, a 316 square foot fitness center, and on the third and fourth floors, a 316 square foot community room. Drawing SK2 are the building elevations. The front elevation indicates a view from 16th Avenue and indicates the entry door and the first floor covered parking. The three upper floors indicate partial brick facade around the staircase and horizontal siding around the upper story windows. The left side elevation faces the existing 2.5 story residential structures to the west and indicates a brick facade on the first floor and horizontal siding on the upper floors. No windows are indicated. The rear elevation is situated along the northern property line and indicates the parking on the first floor level and horizontal siding on the upper floors with no windows above. The right side elevation is viewed from Summer Street, where the existing access driveway is located. The first floor indicates a brick facade with one set of windows and an access door. The upper floors indicate horizontal siding and windows on all three floors. The building has a top height of 42 feet and has a flat roof. The intent of the RA-2 residential district of the 5th Ward redevelopment plan is to permit a more intensive residential use of land with various types of dwellings. The surrounding existing dwellings are a mixture of older multifamily dwellings, although there are newer two-family dwellings in the area of Pearl Street and a new 3-story building on the southwest corner of Pearl Street and Summer Street has been completed. The applicant requests variances for the following conditions for this proposed 15-unit structure. Lot width of 50 feet is required, and lot widths of 22 feet and 45 feet are existing. One side yard setback is a minimum of 5 feet is required and 0 feet is proposed. A minimum rear yard setback of 20 feet is required and 0 is proposed. A 3.5-story building is permitted and a 4-story building is proposed. The maximum lot coverage of 80% is permitted and lot coverage of 91% is proposed. 2,250 square feet of amenity and open space is required and 1,752 square feet is provided as such a variance is requested. Each one-bedroom unit requires one parking space for a total of 12 off-street parking spaces, and each two-bedroom unit requires 1.5 parking spaces for a total of 4.5 parking spaces. Combined, a total of 16 off-street parking spaces are required and 11 off-street parking spaces are provided. A variance is requested. As this is a redevelopment area, the planning board must determine whether the granting of the requested variances to allow the number of dwelling units proposed by the applicant is appropriate for the lot and the immediate surrounding area. Residential apartment construction is permitted within the redevelopment area. A mixture of different types of residential units is encouraged. The planning board should determine whether the land area of the parcel is suitable for the number and type of apartment units proposed. A note on the plan indicates that the entire site and site perimeter is to be equipped with video security throughout public areas and site lighting along the traveled public way and parking areas. Surveillance cameras are to connect to the City of Paterson Police Department system. It shall be the responsibility of the applicant in order to prepare the plan to obtain a letter from the city engineer indicating the plans have been satisfactorily reviewed prior to the plans being released to the construction official. Surrounding land use. This proposal is in the Wrigley Park section of the city within the 5th Ward redevelopment plan. The area is zoned residential with neighborhood commercial areas located at some corner intersections. Concluding remarks. The applicant estimates the cost of this proposal at approximately $3 million. The applicant should incorporate the design elements contained within the 5th Ward redevelopment plan on the site and within the building. On February 6, 2019, the applicant was approved to construct a 3-story residential building with a total of 12 units on the southwest corner of Pearl Street and Summer Street. The applicant has provided 12 parking spaces on the driveway leading from Summer Street that is the subject of this application, also known as block 4317, lot 22. That is your staff review for this proposal, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you, Mr. Deutsch. Mr. Maricondo?
Yes, good evening again, Madam Chair and Commissioners, thank you. Again, this is an application to be heard on a special meeting basis. We very much appreciate that. As you heard from Mr. Deutsch's report, which we agree with in all respects, we are located within the RA2 section of the 5th Ward redevelopment plan, which this applicant and developer is actively engaged as well. We agree in all respects with the recitation provided by Mr. Deutsch as to the background of the site, the proposal and variances being sought. We'll be calling Mr. Evans, Mr. Reed, and Mr. Williams this evening again as our expert and applicant witnesses. So we'll be starting with Mr. Evans.
Okay, go ahead.
Just raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm testimony about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
State your name for the record.
Matthew Evans, architect, 470 Chamberlain Ave, Paterson, New Jersey.
Okay, thank you. We accept him as an expert witness. Please proceed.
Madam Chair.
Yeah. Yes.
Before we proceed, I have a question from Michael Dodge. At number 14, at the end, we talk about lot coverage. 80% is permitted and 91% is proposed. But the zoning chart from the bottom is looking
It's 100.
Yeah.
Right. Is that an error?
If you, Mr. Evans can dialogue with Mr. Deutsch if we wish, Madam Chair.
Mr. Deutsch? Okay, you're muted. I'm sorry, you're muted.
I would go with what I've written. It appears that the change that I made to the zoning chart wasn't saved, so I have to go with what I'd actually written and now what's on the chart.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. So that would be that it's at 92% or something? Is that what you said?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Please proceed, Matt.
Okay.
Before he does, can I ask, I'm sorry, can I ask a question to Mr. Deutsch?
Yes, please.
Just a one quick question.
Yeah.
What's the difference in amenity space and open space?
Well, open space would be outside space where you can sit, and amenity space would be an interior space like a bike room or a meeting room.
Okay, thank you.
You're
All
welcome.
right, thank you. Please proceed, Matt.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna post our plan. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. All right, so basically, to illustrate what we have an irregularly shaped lot which connects 16th Avenue to Summer Street, and it's existing 100% impervious area. That lot is irregularly shaped, and what we're doing is we're proposing a new 4-story building to the westerly side of the property. It's basically tucked between a previous approval we had for 12 units on Pearl and Summer, and then, as you know, that car wash adjacent to our property is along 16th Avenue and it ends up on Summer Street. I mentioned it's 100% impervious coverage, and we shade the parking spaces from the previous approval There's 12 parking spaces. That's dedicated to the, previous approval for Pearl and Summer for the 12 units that was conditioned. The rest of the parking, 12 spaces, we're dedicating to, our, proposed, building that's all underneath the garage area. So we have 12, and then we have the 12 that are, consistent with the, previous approval. So, that being said, we show the building, which is 4 stories, and it faces, the front is on 16th Avenue, and it's sandwiched between the residential to the west and the existing car wash to the east. I'll go illustrate a little more, and we'll go to the floor plans. And I'll show you on the first floor plan, the ground floor, we show the 16th Ave entry. We have landscaping to the front, and we show a paver patio and path to the rear of the building. So inside we have a nice open lounge area and entry lobby, which is 709 square feet. We have mailboxes shown. There's a package room. And also we have the first egress stair, which is part of the lobby area, and that would bring us up to the upper floors. We have the elevator, sprinkler room, and we have bike storage. Adjacent to that, we show the refuse recycling, which is exterior, that's accessed on the exterior walkway and path, and another way to access the property. And that would be for refuse and recycling. We show the line in the building above, 11 parking spaces in the garage. We show the handicap space, and we have these parking spaces. We show the garage, and then we have there's 2 spaces exterior, which are counted towards our application. So that's all underneath the residential. Going to the second floor, basically we have the second to fourth floor would be the same type of layout. Going to unit 201, which is consistent with 301 and 401, is a 1-bedroom unit. It's 675 square feet. We have a large bedroom in the front. We have living, dining, kitchen. We have a stackable laundry as part of the unit, handicap bathroom, full bath, and then we have mechanical, which are all separate utilities for all the units, and then we have a front hall closet, and that was accessed off the entry. The elevator lobby, we have 120 square feet, which has seating and a window, and we have access to a refuse and recycling on each floor, which is part of the service area. And then we have the tenant amenity space for the second floor would be a fitness center. And then the third and fourth would be community space, which is 316 square feet per floor. Going to unit 202, we have a 1-bedroom apartment, which is 724 square feet, so that meets the minimum requirement. It's over 124 square feet over the minimum requirement. And as you can see, we have a large living dining area, kitchen, open living space, and then we have a large bedroom and a handicap bathroom. And as I mentioned, we all have laundry facilities for all the units are separate. And then unit 203, which is consistent, similar to 202, it'd be a 1-bedroom unit. Then also 204 is a mirror of 203, so that would be the same. And they all are, so we said 724 for 202, 749 square feet for 203, and then we have 732 for 204. And then we come back down the hallway, and there's the fire stair, second means of egress off to the rear. And then we have unit 205, which has a nice 2-bedroom unit. It's 936 square feet. We have a big open kitchen, dining, living area with large windows along the living space, and then we have windows along the bedrooms for the bedroom space. And that would be consistent with the floor plan. So that would spell out that. Then we go to the front elevation, which is, we have a mix of materials. We have landscaping on 16th Avenue. Then we have that access path, as I mentioned, on the exterior. We have street trees, which would give it, are consistent with the redevelopment plan. And then we have a mix of materials. We have large windows for all the units. We have brick veneer, vertical siding, and then we have a mix of materials, also horizontal siding on the rear section. Now, looking at it, you can see there's the cars under the garage area, and what you see is this rear section here is not at 16th Avenue. It's basically pushed back and it's behind the setback from 16th Ave for the garage in the rear. So left side is a plain elevation that's on the rear property line. And then we have the same with the other, the rear elevation. This is along the back. And then this is left side elevation, along the side, which is adjacent to the other residential units. And then you can see we have the car wash would be here if you're looking at it from Summer Street, but looking at the building cut away, we have the mix of materials, and we have these large windows for the apartments from the second, third, and fourth floor. We have, zoom in here a little bit, we can show you, we have nice high ceilings in all the apartments. We have 9-foot ceilings. So we're proposing 9-foot ceiling for the garage, 9-foot ceiling for the second, third, and fourth floor. So those would give a lot of volume to those units and give a much more pleasant atmosphere within the living space. That would be the architectural plans spelled out what we submitted.
Just to clarify again, Mr. Evans, and Mr. Williams can amplify upon this, of course. You designate again the parking that's designated on site and the parking that's referencing the Pearl Street project again, how it's utilized?
Okay, so here we have, looking at the first floor plan, we have on the top right, we have a handicap spot and a regular spot, and then the handicap access. We have 2 parking spaces there. Then as you come down under the garage area, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 underneath the garage. So we have 9 and 2 is 11, and then we have 2 exterior spaces adjacent to that, which I'll go back to the site plan. Oops. And then you'll see how we have these spaces outside and under the garage that were dedicated for our development. And then we show the shaded area, which was part of the resolution for the Pearl 12 units. Those would remain along the drive aisle for the existing approval. So that would not count as part of our what we're proposing as part of our
parking layout.
Yeah, as a part of our requirement.
Okay.
So we have 12 spaces provided for us, and then we have 12 for the adjacent property.
I think you indicated 11 plus 2, am I right? Or
well, let me see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. No, 12. I'm sorry.
One outside, okay.
Yeah, that other one was part of the other one. So we have 12 and 12, 24 spaces, 50% would be dedicated to the previous resolution.
And George, Mr. Williams will cover the variance requirements of the parking. So would that conclude your testimony at this time?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have, Madam Chair, at this time.
Okay, for the sake of time, please call, Mr. Reed.
Sure. Andy?
Mr. Reed,
Sure. Mr. Williams will cover the variance requirements of the parking. So would that conclude your testimony at this time?
Okay, for the sake of time, please call Mr. Reed.
Sure. Andy?
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please state your full name for the record.
Andy Reid, REID, Director of Development for JCM Investors.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reed. Obviously, you've heard Mr. Deutsch's report, Mr. Evans' testimony into the record this evening, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and obviously this is a project on a very large parcel of over 11,000 square feet. You're in full agreement with the designation in terms of number of units and so forth?
Yes.
Okay, and the parking proposal, which is before the board, would provide 12 of the 16 spaces. Mr. Williams will discuss the variances as well, in addition to parking. But this site will be managed and monitored in a similar fashion to your other housing developments?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Reed, at this time.
Okay, thank you. Then at this time, I'm gonna open it up to the public. If anyone in the public has any questions of either Mr. Reed or Mr. Evans based solely on their testimony, not for comments I'll save for later, but this is for questions of either of them, please call in at 973-321-1579. The meeting ID number is 711-680-001. I'll allow 2 minutes for call-ins and 3 minutes for questions. Thank you.
We have no callers at this time.
Okay, then I'm gonna continue. If anyone should call in, just let me know. Hey, commissioners, any questions?
Chairwoman.
I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Brooks? Wait, who
He
did
was first. Please
Please proceed, Commissioner Brooks.
Go ahead, Commissioner Brooks.
Mr. Reed, he said that they're gonna have community space, community rooms on 3rd and 4th floor. What are the people on the 1st and 2nd floor gonna do? They're gonna have community rooms here too?
There's nobody on the first floor, but, the spaces will be utilized by any tenant on any floor.
So the community rooms on the 3rd
It's
floor.
for the building.
Okay.
First floor, which is ground floor, is a matter of entry to the building and, parking in the rear.
Parking. Okay. And there's no backyard space or anything, cause the rear yard is 0. So there's nowhere that they can sit out or anything. There's no room or anything out like that where they'll be able to have a barbecue pit or anything, or nothing. No.
No.
All the amenity space is inside on this project.
Okay, any other commissioners have any questions?
Yes, the question for Mr. Evans, Madam Chair.
Yes, please, go ahead.
I probably missed, but I didn't hear anything about sprinkler system.
Oh, yeah, by code, the present building code, all multifamilies will need, fire sprinklers. So, the whole building will have a residential, NFPA 13 fire sprinkler throughout, and it would have a connection to an alarm, and it would also be connected with a, fire department connection for the fire, trucks to connect to supplement that also. We would also have sprinklers in the garage, sprinkler heads, which would be protected from freezing. That would protect the garage area, and it'll all be fire rated construction.
And we would also have to comply with the Department of Community Affairs, State of New Jersey, as a multifamily.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Zavalios. Anybody else? Any other commissioners? Any questions? Okay, then I'm gonna move on, okay, and, Mr. Maraconda,
We'll call
please call your next witness.
Yes, Mr. Williams.
Swear affirm testimony about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I most certainly do.
Please state your full name for the record.
Good evening, Madam Court Reporter, Commissioners. My name is George Weedle Williams, spelled Williams, representing the Michelin Group, headquartered at 105 Grove Street, Suite number 3 in Montclair.
Okay, thank you. We accept him as an expert witness.
Thank you.
Mr. Williams. Obviously, you've heard all the earlier testimony this evening and Mr. Deutsch's report. You could proceed with your analysis of the variances and other planning issues raised in the application.
Thank you, Mr. Maraconda. Good evening again, Mr. Commissioners. Very, very briefly, same context as the prior application in terms of the intent and purpose of redevelopment planning law and the Fifth Ward redevelopment plan. Again, redevelopment planning enables municipalities to address conditions of decline and deterioration by creating very specific guidelines that help incentivize investment and development. Fifth Ward, similar to the Fourth Ward redevelopment plan, the overall goal and objective is to address the conditions of what I would call blight, like vacancies and abandoned properties, tax arrearages, and criminal activity. The application before you advances not only the redevelopment law, but your Fifth Ward redevelopment plan by taking a vacant parcel and bringing it back to its utilization in a very creative way as described by Matt Evans. That being said, in addition to advancing your Fifth Ward redevelopment plan, this is a very unique piece of property as described by Mr. Deutsch in his introductory comments. It's an L-shaped property with frontage both on 2 streets, the primary address being 16th Avenue. For the record again, this is property commonly referred to as 78 16th Avenue and 71-87 16th Avenue, and identified in your municipal tax records as block 4317, lot number 22, again located in your RA2 residential district of the city's Fifth Ward redevelopment area. The intent of that area, as Mr. Deutsch mentioned, is to, quote, permit a more intense residential use of land with various types of dwelling density is maintained in a medium range, while building height is kept low enough to be generally compatible with 1 and 2 family residential development. The reliefs being sought, as mentioned by Mr. Deutsch in his testimony, are for the lot width, side yard setback on other side, rear yard setback, 20-foot required, 0 proposed, as Commissioner Brooks mentioned. Number of stories, 3.5 is the max. We are seeking relief to provide 4, and you'll hear me offer testimony about that as a trade-off for getting parking on the site. Lot surface coverage, 80% is required. Mr. Joyce clarified that 92% is proposed and exists today. Amenity space, 2,250 square feet, parking, 16 spaces required, and you heard Matt Evans clarify for the record that 12 are proposed for a site, leaving a deviation of 4 parking spaces for the site. With that, I'd like to go to my exhibit very quickly just to give context for...
Excuse me, I think, Mr. Aquaviva, do we need to record this?
We can mark it as our exhibit. It's not been submitted earlier.
Yeah, we would mark it as A1.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Continue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, Exhibit A1 is a collection of images, some taken directly from the local land use documents, others provided by internet sites, which I'll reference, and then the remainder are pictures that I and my staff collected during our site survey. Slide number Two, again, always begin with this to confirm for the record that the site is indeed located in the RA2 district of your 5th Ward redevelopment plan. This image is taken directly from the 5th Ward redevelopment plan itself, and my staff and I have provided some overlays. The property is indicated in the pinkish color, and it's clearly identifiable because of its L shape, and indicated with a label identifying it as a site. Slide number 3, again, an aerial perspective, just showing this site in the context of the surrounding lots. Unlike the prior application, this lot is irregularly shaped and considerably larger than the other lots in this area. It also has the unique characteristic of wrapping around another development on lot number 23 and 24. So Matt Evans addressed those development challenges, and you'll see images of that challenge in a moment. Slide number 4, photograph taken of the site. The image on the left is the frontage on 16th Avenue. That black frame is what I would assume is a drawdown gate that provides some security for entering the lot from that side, the 16th Avenue side. To the left of that gate is an existing development, 4 dwelling units in that property. To the right of that gate is the ingress for the active car wash. The photograph to the right in this slide is an image of the egress from Summer Street to our property, so the larger side of the L shape, and the property immediately to adjacent to us on the right, which is 54-58 Pearl Street, also a JCM development. Slide number 5 is a different perspective of 54-58 Pearl Street, which I just showed you a moment ago. Now I'm not focusing on the Summer Street entrance to our property, but the corner of Summer and Pearl Street, giving you a sense of the scale of that property that was recently completed. And that has 13 dwelling units. Finally, slide number 6, a view of 94-96 16th Avenue. And this project is currently under construction, also belongs to the applicant. This is a 19-unit multifamily dwelling, also in the RA2 zone, same as the subject property. Commissioners, just to give you a sense of what the surrounding land development pattern looks like, and as you can see when you look down Pearl Street, the development pattern is a bit larger than on Summer Street, and so that gave cues to Matt Evans and his design approach to our property. With that, I'll go into the reliefs. Again, for the record, as mentioned in the prior application, and I would submit to this board every application, the board knows that there are 2 contexts for granting relief for deviations from bulk and area standards, and that is the C1 traditional context, and that is that the relief is required because failure to grant the relief would create undue hardship, and those hardship tests are typically for C1. They are the the unusual shape, size, or topography of the site, and or a structure lawfully thereon that makes it impractical or impossible to comport with the strict application of your code. The C2, also known as the flexible C, allows the board to consider if, on the whole, deviation from the strict application of your code in the bulk and area standards provides a better zoning alternative than the strict application of the code. For the relief we're seeking, I'm going to submit to the board both for the bulk and area deviations and the parking variance that the C2 context would be most appropriate for your consideration. Again, that's for the side yard on the other side, rear yard setback, number of stories, lot surface coverage, and parking. As I mentioned in a prior application, as you know from municipal land use law, to grant a C2 relief, the variance has to be grounded in the purpose of the zoning. I also mentioned in prior applications that there is a court case, the Poland court case, that gives the board leeway to look at the deviations as a whole part of the development proposal. And if on the whole, the overall development proposal is a actual benefit, then the board may grant those reliefs collectively under the C2 context.
Mr. Williams, but is there, you still need to reference these exhibits at this point?
I can take them down.
If you're, yeah, we would proceed that way, I would assume.
Thank you, Mr. Maricano.
Thank you. If you can reference to the site plan again, Mr. Evans can post it.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. So going back to the purpose of the zoning rooted in subsection A, the first purpose of zoning under the municipal land use law to encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use or development of all lands in the state in a manner which will promote the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. As in the prior application, in this application, the removal of a vacant parcel in a redevelopment area would achieve those, that purpose of zoning. And so I would submit to the board that subsection A is most appropriate because the removal of a vacant lot or abandoned building and replace it with quality housing is actually the improvement to health and safety and welfare. Subsection I, to promote desirable visual environment through creative development techniques and good civic design. Often the focus is on the visual environment. Matt Evans provided testimony about his design approach to this application, and also the design, again, this being a challenging site because of its unique narrowness and shape, the L shape, and being able to fit on-site parking through good civic design. I'll come back to the parking issue in a few moments. As this board knows, often where lots have widths of 15 feet or less, no parking is provided. In this case, we have lot widths that are significantly under 50 feet, and Matt Evans, through creative design technique, has managed to provide what I would submit to the board is sufficient parking for this project. That creative technique also will be addressed when I get to the height variance, but again, the good civic design and creative approach to this allowed for us to get parking on site, but it also increased the height of our property slightly. Finally, subsection J, again, I refer to this subsection of the purposes of zoning primarily because we are in a urban redevelopment area, and subsection J says to prevent urban sprawl and degradation of the environment through improper use of land. It speaks to doing exactly what your redevelopment plan calls for and the application that is before you, and that is to focus investment and development in urban areas, particularly infill development in redevelopment areas where the infrastructure exists, as opposed to building housing far out where people cannot get to it easily, there's no mass transportation, and often there's no infrastructure to support that development. Finally, state policies can be considered a purpose of zoning. In this particular instance, I would submit to the board that under the Anfuso v. Sealy court case, the state policy of smart growth would be advanced if you were to approve this application with those minor bulk and area deviations by compact development housing, infill housing, particularly in redevelopment areas, creating more walkable neighborhoods, and taking advantage of existing infrastructure. Under the C2 context, the benefits outweigh the detriments. In my professional opinion, if you were to grant the relief sought, again, relatively minor bulk and area deviations for the side yard. Admittedly, a 0-foot side yard on the other side proposed, but when you look at the exhibits that I shared with you a moment ago, that becomes relatively minor given the ownership of the other property. Rear yard setback, 20 foot is required, 0 is proposed. Again, that's really a function of the very unique shape of this property and the fact that we are enveloping a existing car wash operation. Lot surface coverage, again, relatively minor in order to achieve the parking on site. We're seeking a deviation from the strict application of your code and increasing by approximately 12%. All of the bulk area deviations, in my opinion, when taken as a whole for the project, the benefits would outweigh any detriments. Speaking about the parking specifically, we have a requirement of 16 parking spaces, and you heard Matt Evans testify that 12 will be provided on site. I also mentioned in my introductory comments it's typically that for lots with 50-foot width or less, no parking is required. We've managed to provide 12 on-site parking spaces, 11 of which are covered, 1 of which is a handicap parking space, and 1 will be uncovered parking space on the site. When you consider the access to mass transportation in the area and the fact that several of the units will be 1-bedroom units, it's our testimony that the supply of parking on this site will more than adequately meet the real demand. There's a court case, Amenity v. Vacant, that suggests that when the real demand is different than what's required by the code, the board may consider, in a C2 context, the relief sought. You heard Mr. Reed speak about his experience in the immediate vicinity with development and how parking demand is met in a real way. He's got the empirical data to support that. But I'd go one step further than the Valenti court case and submit to the board that under the Paterson master plan, the plan itself calls for a more flexible approach to parking requirements in Paterson. And I refer specifically to section, to the master plan page 6-45, and it reads in part as follows. Quote, while insufficient off-street parking can be problematic, excessive off-street parking has its own negative consequences as well. Providing off-street parking can be expensive and even cost prohibitive for a developer, and it also uses space that could potentially be put to another productive use. Parking spaces that are needed for, and then it goes on to talk about shared parking. What's particularly relevant about this section of your master plan is it speaks to cost being prohibitive. Typically, that's not a concern that a planning board or even zoning board should concern themselves with, but in a redevelopment area where the redevelopment plan specifically is designed to create incentives for investment and development, your master plan understands that it would be antithetical to have developers spend unnecessary money on parking in situations like this. Further, your master plan realizes that there has to be a trade-off, and that as in the case of the Valenti court case, as in the instance of the Valenti court case, where there is empirical data that the actual parking demand is less than that of the code, the board may comfortably grant relief for that deviation. So for all those reasons, I would submit to the board that there are more than adequate proofs for both the deviations from the bulk and area standards of the RA2 district and the 5th Ward redevelopment plan, that the benefits, the preponderance of benefits outweigh any potential detriments. Certainly none of the detriments rise to the level of substantial. In the case of the parking, it's my opinion that we actually meet the real parking demand. In fact, we supply more parking than is typically required for a piece of property with these lot widths, which are 50 and or less feet. So for all those reasons, in my opinion as a professional planner, the board could grant the requested bulk and area release under the Appoint context and the parking release under the Valenti context. And I've lost my voice, so I conclude.
Thank you very much, Mr. Williams.
Okay, so at this time, thank you, Mr. Williams, I'm going to open it up to the public for any questions. Please call in at 973-321-1579, and the meeting ID is 711-680-001. Questions for Mr. Williams? I'll allow 2 minutes for call-ins, 3 minutes for questions. Thank you.
We have no callers at this time.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. At this point, I will open it up to the commissioners. Commissioners, any questions of Mr. Williams?
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Brooks.
Mr. Williams,
Yes,
as
Commissioner.
far as the detriment is concerned, the rear yard, setback, you can truly sit and tell me that you don't think that people that are gonna be in a 15-unit building with another, I think, 19-unit next to them shouldn't have some kind of a backyard or some kind of a space where they can sit out in the summertime or in a time where, I mean, you're gonna say to me that that's not a detriment, that because of the amenity space on the inside, which is a community room on the third and fourth floor, that people is not entitled to have a backyard, not even a backyard, but some kind of greenery where they can sit out in the summer, even if they wanted to cook out. You're gonna say that that's not a detriment. That's what you're saying, right?
So just to clarify, my testimony was that there would be no substantial detriment for any of the bulk area deviations, including the rear yard. So that was my testimony. To address your question, in the context of the C2 variances, often it's all about, and the law says this, it's about trade-offs. So yes, there is a benefit to having open space in the rear yard. The trade-off here is the challenges of the site and the surrounding neighborhood. You hear Mr. Reed speak often about the applicant's dedication to security via their security cameras and some of their design techniques. For pioneers like applicants coming into the 5th Ward redevelopment area and taking up vacant properties, it is a bit tough to offer an abundance of open space at this time, given the surrounding land development pattern. So if we were not in the redevelopment area, given the character of this particular neighborhood, I would say you may be correct. What I would close with is that in that same context, providing the interior space, which is safe and secure, is a good trade-off for the deviation from your rear yard setback.
So the rear, what you're saying is that that's like a, you can write that off the rear setback because it fits within the redevelopment plan for this particular site. But what I'm saying to you is, don't you think people deserve to have some kind of outside area to sit on? Wouldn't it have been, let me ask you this, wouldn't you be more susceptible if this building the space was divided up differently or designed differently, where there would be maybe more outside space and less units? And this way they would have some rear yard space that could be used for benches, even just benches or a barbecue thing, whatever. But at least they would be able to come and have that. You're not having it on the roof anymore. It looks like you used to would bring things here with these kind of buildings and you would put something on the roof. At least they would have some outside kind of communication. Now you're not even doing that anymore. And the buildings that you're putting up now are larger, you know, and it seems that you're just not concerned about what is good for, I mean, I wouldn't want to live in a building that I didn't have any kind of place where I could sit out if I wanted to. I know you, Mr. Regal, you're not gonna have it, you wouldn't move into a building where, that didn't have any kind of outside space where you could sit out. I'm just talking common sense. I understand what you're saying as far as what the land use law says, because I read them. But I'm saying to you, common sense and humanity from a human point. You know, people just because they're poor should not have to lack because they're poor.
Commissioner Brooks?
I'm not gonna say anything else. That's all I want you to know. I want to go on record.
Commissioner Brooks, I just like, Madam Chairman, may I say something, please?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Everything we do and design, I've come to this board from a human perspective with humanity. We don't design a building saying, well, this is going to be a poor building, we don't care about what these people want. This building is not a large building, right? And then Commissioner Brooks, one thing you did say is correct. If the building don't meet a particular tenant's need or wants or desires, they're not going to move into this building. So we're not building a poor building. And in addition to that, the city directly across the street has a non-utilized park area between 16th Ave and Pearl Street, just east of Summer Street. I'm pretty sure you might recall that little area there. They had some basketball courts there at one time, so the city just let it go to despair. I'll talk to the city about seeing if they could do anything about revitalizing that area. That'd be a good little recreational area for this building for the people in that area. But we don't design no building without any type of humanity and say, well, this is going to be for poor people, so we don't care what they want or what they might want don't mean anything to us.
Well, I think when you take in consideration that you're redeveloping these areas, then you have to take in consideration what would be feasible and what would be a nicety for people to have certain things. That's all I'm saying.
This building's gonna be a nice building. This building's gonna be a nice building. Not that big. It's gonna be a nice building. It's gonna have some nice finishes in the interior. We do have some amenity spaces, and again, directly right across the street, just a walk across the roadway, the city has a property that was a parking area that they let it fall into despair. And so I would talk to the administration about revitalizing that park area, especially now that they got money coming in, revitalize that park area so everybody in the community can utilize that area.
I think that's an excellent idea, Andy. We should follow up on that.
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Figueroa. It's going on almost 10 o'clock at night. Can we please refocus and move forward?
I would like to refocus, but everybody, excuse me, I would like to refocus, people have a right to make their comments. I just want to add that we have to be reminded that this is not suburbia. This is an inner city. We are, we're not there. We're not in the suburbs. And so they're giving us the parking,
Planning board is we are in the urban. I don't know how you can say that. We're not city and you're a planning board in the urban city.
Excuse me, I'm talking, Commissioner Brooks, I'm talking, okay? So let's just get that straight, I'm talking, all right? And I'm saying to you that we are in an urban city, we're not in suburbia, and that therefore maybe we can't have all the things we would love to have, like the parking, like a backyard, like a rooftop. Maybe we can't have all of that, but I felt tonight that they gave us pretty much what we needed. We're always complaining about the parking, you got the parking. That's my opinion, and I'm entitled to my opinion. So with that, I'm gonna ask, are there any other questions from the commissioners tonight? Any commissioners, any at all, right now, let's
I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Santana, go ahead.
Commissioner Santana. This is for Mr. Anderson or Mr. Matthew. I see that recycling and refuse is gonna be outside. That's gonna be like in front of the building. I just wanna double check that.
Mr. Evans or Mr.
No, it's gonna be on the other, it's gonna be on the other side of the parking area, in the hallways, there's gonna be a refuse and recycle area, and we bring it down, with the, refuse outside is gonna be on the outside and other side of the parking area, not in front of the building. So that area there, you see, that's between the wall of the car wash and the wall of the garage, so it won't be seen by the public, by anybody.
All right, thank you so much. I just need that to be clarified.
No problem, thank you.
Great, any other commissioners? Any other commissioners? Okay, hearing none, okay, then I'm going to open it up, back to, Mr. Maricano, please sum up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We appreciate the time this evening, particularly on a special meeting basis. We think the testimony before you this evening sets forth more than sufficient criteria for this development. It's an outstanding project, in our opinion, on a site that the applicant has done, I think, a very creative plan to provide high-quality housing, very substantial parking, very substantial amenity space. We're trying to address each and every issue that comes before us, and the quality of this project, I think, will be outstanding in all respects. Thank you very much.
Okay, that being said, I'd like to ask, would any commissioner like to make a motion on this application? Commissioners?
I'll move.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Udine, go ahead, please.
Alright, on the application of Jason Investor, 1012 LLC 449 East 18th Street, Paterson, New Jersey 07524, property address 71-87 16th Avenue, block 4317, lot 22. I move that the board attorney prepare a resolution granting the site plan approval block variances subject to city engineer approval and HEB Soil Conservation District approval.
Thank you, Mr. Akudeva, there were no conditions, correct?
There aren't any, Madam Chair.
There weren't any, okay, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Cevallos. Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioners, Commissioner Ahmed,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
No.
Commissioner Savalos,
Yes.
Commissioner Santana,
Yeah.
Commissioner Udine,
Yes.
Commissioner Figueroa,
Yes.
Councilman Kalik.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Forestieri,
Yes.
Chairwoman Northrop.
Yes.
There were 8
Commissioners.
affirmative, 1 in the negative. This application has been granted. We have no further business this evening.
Thank you. When's our next meeting?
Thank you, Commissioners.
Wait, when's our next meeting? Michael Deutsch's microphone is on, but I think he's talking about May 5th.
I believe there's a May 3rd special, Madam Chair.
Excuse me, it's May 3rd,
May
3rd.
2021.
Okay, May 3rd, we have a special. Okay, I hope to see everyone then. Happy Ramadan to everybody. Happy Ramadan to all those who celebrate. And I'll see, have a good evening, everyone, okay?
Good evening.